I almost wonder if I just shouldn't do a shutdown and a restart while we still have 3 minutes.
Okay, I've got recording going.
All right, you're the host, KT. Lance is co-host. I'll be back. I'm afraid to leave, though, if I come back through that link. I'll be okay. Well, Lance, we had over 100 people register, and then we're going to stream this Facebook Live in our Rock and Red, so that's our private group. So we'll have several more watching with you.
Lance.
Morning.
Good morning. Lance, can you give me the name of the key leaders that are joining you, just so that make sure I got everybody straight?
Sure. Christina Wynn is our N-G-U-Y-E-N, but it's like win-win. So Christina Wynn is our VP of Listing Agents. Sarah Detmore is our VP of Buyer Agents. Sarah St. Marceau is the president of our luxury division, and she's our VP of Marketing. So it's kind of a dual role. And Elena is our VP of Operations. Amy Flynn is our VP of Inside Sales.
Got all the rock stars here.
They are amazing.
KT, you doing okay with face? Oh, I see you are.
I'm downloading the new presentation. It's only 127 megabytes.
Sorry, Lance.
Oh, no, we're perfectly fine. She had just given it to me in a PDF format. I wanted it to be in the PowerPoint format.
All right, it looks like we are live on Rock and Reds as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Hey, Harry.
So that means you need to manage sound too, because I can't.
Hey, Harry, how are you? Good.
I am.
You driving right now? What is it, Harry? Are you driving right now? Yes, I am.
What's up, Lance?
Give me 1 second, guys. I muted everybody, and let me unmute Lance real quick. There you go. Lance, you should be unmuted now.
Okay, good. Is my voice coming through clearly?
You're a bit staticky right now.
Yeah, it's a bit staticky from what I hear too. I'm wondering if I should do it over my cell phone instead.
You may possibly put some headphones in. It might help you out with your microphone.
I've never done headphones, but I'll call in from my cell phone.
Okay.
That tends to work a lot better.
Perfect.
Even though we're at the office and we have fiber optics, sometimes it still is an issue.
You're starting to sound a little bit better.
Okay. Is it good or?
You're sounding much better. It's not staticky anymore.
Okay. Well, and I was uploading the presentation. So, okay, I'll try shutting this off. Well, I'll leave it here just in case.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll let we've got a handful of people really starting to pop on here. So we'll allow a couple more minutes and then we will do an introduction and let you take it away.
Okay. And do you want me to share the screen yet, or do you want to wait until you guys do your introductions?
I'll introduce your, share your bio and let you run.
Okay.
How is Houston doing right now with COVID? And I know Texas, just like North Carolina, was a little bit hot. So are things cooling down a little bit?
We are definitely the hot spot. California just took over as the new hot spot. And we've now had, I believe it's 4 days of decline numbers. So that's a good thing. We're still way over what the national numbers are. New York City's actually got a 1% rate and we're around 24%. So that's the disparity, but it's getting better and people are adapting to the new mask laws that are here in Texas. So that's been a challenge as well. So.
That's good. Well, I'm glad everybody's healthy with your, and hopefully within your organization.
Yes,
all right,
everybody's healthy here.
Yep. Well, we'll get rolling. We're up to about 85 on here and it's 11:03. So we want to honor everybody's time. We've got agents across the region and across the organization that are joining us on here. So welcome everybody. We're excited to host Lance Loken and his amazing team. He's got his VP of operations with them, VP of luxury, VP of inside sales, and VP of both listings and buyers. So we're welcome everyone. I know Lance will go through and welcome you guys too. A little bit about the Loken Group. Hard to believe that it was only in 2011 that they were established, and they had the desire and mission to make a positive and lasting impact. The company consists of their founding brand, the Loken Group, their luxury brand, portfolio real estate, and their commercial brand, TLG Commercial, and their charity, TLG Gives. Since opening their doors over 8 years ago, they've grown to over 85 team members and are now the #1 in the state of Texas. And they focus on the Houston metro area. With over $628 million in sales in 2019, Lance and Karina attribute the company's success to their outstanding members of their team, and every one of them are driven, solution-based, and they're experts in their respective fields. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and giving us your time. And I know that everybody's so excited to see you on. So thank you.
Our pleasure. And it's an honor and a privilege. And hi, everybody. This is going to be exciting. This is the first time we've done a presentation over Zoom via this way. So hopefully it'll work out well. Why don't we go around and have everybody introduce themselves? Sarah St. Marceau, why don't you lead everything up? You got to unmute yourself, Sarah.
Working on that. Hi, I'm Sarah St. Marceau. I am a VP of Luxury and also VP of Marketing. I've been with the team for 7.5 years now, I guess, Lance. It's been a while. When I first started at the Loken Group, I started as an inside sales agent, which was a complete 180 from what I had been doing before. My prior career, I was in advertising for about 15 years in New York and a few years here in Houston, which is where I'm from. And when I first met Lance and Karina, it was at a bar through a mutual friend. And a couple of years later, when I decided to get into real estate, we got reconnected again, and meeting with Lance and Karina and walking through the halls and just seeing the culture of the team and the vision in which they had for the team really sold me. It was exactly what I had been looking for, and I'm still here and happy as can be.
Awesome. Sarah Detmore, are you on?
Of course I'm here, Lance. My hair and makeup is ready. I am here ready to go. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sarah Detmore. I'm the VP of our buyer agent team with the Loken Group. Just like Sarah St. Marceau, I have been with the Loken Group since April of 2013. So coming up on 7.5 years. I joined the team as a buyer agent and have just kind of grown through production and grown into leading and coaching the buyer agents. We have 11 buyer agents on our team right now. And our plan for 2021 is to hire 4 more. So rapidly growing our buyer agent team. My background is in sales and marketing and sports and entertainment. And I met Lance and Karina and the team at the time, which was, I think, 7 people. At my previous job, I was an event coordinator for the horse racing track here in Houston called Sam Houston Race Park, and met Lance and Karina and the team. And the next day, Lance called me, or Karina called me rather, and I thought they were calling to dispute their bill of all things. And actually they were calling to recruit me into real estate, which I knew nothing about. And took a little bit of convincing, but I took that leap of faith, and it's the best decision I've ever made.
Christina Wynn.
Good morning, guys. My name is Christina Wynn. How's everyone doing? It's so nice to see you guys here. I'm the Vice President of Listings, and so my role on the team is I coach, train, and hold accountable the listing agents in our team. I've been with the Loken Group since July 2014, so just about 6 years, my anniversary this month. So it's been awesome and amazing. Prior to, it's all good. Prior to the Loken Group, I was in marketing and advertising. I got my MBA in marketing and worked in corporate. Also did some advertising work. So didn't have any real estate background at all. And you'll find that most of us, we don't, just simply because the way that our business is modeled, we teach people from ground up and train them. So that as long as they have the systems and processes in place, then they're gonna excel just phenomenally. And so what I did was, how I met with them was I had a friend of a friend that knew of one of Sarah Detmore's buyer agents, Joy, and we met at a wine bar. So you guys are gonna see and notice that we tend to meet at bars and wine bars. I mean, pre-COVID, right? We work really hard and we like to party hard. So you guys will find that from us. So I met with Joy, and she was explaining the servant leadership, how humble Lance and Karina are, and how Lance had a corporate background if he was a CFO. And I'm not going to steal your thunder, Lance, you can introduce yourself. So he basically just knew numbers and had a powerful vision. What truly sealed the deal for me, because I only intended to do this part-time, just to help family and friends, and didn't even think to pivot my career at all at the time. And so it wasn't until I saw Lance's spreadsheet of his vision, and at the time it was 2014, right? So this spreadsheet was all the way through 2025. And I'm like, holy cannoli, this guy knows his stuff. I'm in, count me in. And so because of the vision, because there was a plan in place, and because there was just the culture and something that I never had and never knew existed, only in movies, I just basically have never left. So that's me in a nutshell. Very excited to be here. And hi, Sam.
All right, Elena, you're up.
Hi, I'm Elena. I'm the Vice President of Operations for the team. I am responsible for coaching and training our administrative staff, as well as creation and implementation of systems and processes. I've been on the team for right about 7 years. July 1st was my 7-year anniversary here. Prior to coming to the Loken Group, I owned a wedding coordinating company, and if I had only known then what I knew now, it would have been a much more successful company. However, I needed a part-time job, and so I was the director of first impressions at our previous market center out in Katy, Texas, and that's how I met Lance and Karina. I worked my way up there to assistant MCA, and I decided I wanted to go back into wedding coordinating full time. So I left there and promptly got knocked up. So if anyone knows anything about wedding coordinating, it is very difficult to do when you are very pregnant and or have a very small child. So I messaged our old team leader and asked if anybody was looking for some admin support. And Lance texted me right away and said, when can you start? This was obviously prior to our CV practices. So that's how I got here, and I've been here ever since.
Awesome. Elena, or I'm sorry, Amy, you're up. She's our newest executive.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here. I am the newest executive. I've been on the team for 4 years. I was brought on to backfill Sarah St. Marceau in the Vice President of Inside Sales role so that she could move into luxury and marketing, which was really her niche and passion. And I was brought onto the team through a friend. I have a friend who's in Keller Williams. She's an agent in Savannah, Chelsea Phillips. And she and I are good personal friends. At the time, I was working with Ford Motor Company. My background is in sales and customer service. I've been in sales and customer service in different areas for over, 10 years when I was wanting to transition out at the time with Ford Motor Company. And I just was expressing to Chelsea, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go from here. I really just didn't align with the industry, and I didn't align with where my values fit in with the company. And in talking through it with her, she was like, oh my gosh, I know who you need to meet. And I was like, great, who? And she said, Lance and Karina. And I was like, great, who are they? And so she connected us. I had a great conversation with Karina and followed by a great conversation with Lance. And I guess the rest is kind of history. I fit so perfectly in the culture and the mission of TLG. There was never any doubt. I had no background in real estate and at the time truly didn't even know what I was going really to be doing. I just knew I wanted to be in this team, and I knew I wanted to go wherever Lance and Karina were going. So it's been a whirlwind of a ride, and I love these ladies and I love our team. So I'm so happy to be here to share some things with you guys.
And an interesting tidbit about Amy is she lived here in Houston and recently relocated just during the pandemic. And maybe you want to talk, well, maybe we'll talk about that later when you talk about the inside sales role. But even with the pandemic and everybody working remotely, it's fit in perfectly with Amy's role because she can do everything remotely at a very high level. And the numbers prove that. So my name is Lance Loken, and hopefully you heard from everybody that none of these ladies have any real estate experience before they joined the Loken Group. Same with me, I had nothing. The way that we started was Karina got into the real estate business in 2008. Karina's my wife. She started everything and worked as a solo agent. And then she earned Rookie of the Year her first year at the Market Center. And then subsequent to that, she had a conversation with Mark Willis about taking over an interim team leader for the Joe Rothschild at that time. He had just moved from Remax over to Keller Williams. And so she became the interim team leader for a year while they were doing a search. And then in 2010, while she was doing this interim piece, I lost my job as well as 400 other people in my corporate environment. I was the CFO for a major oil and gas company. And so that happened in May. And Karina I had interviews all over the United States, and Karina just kept saying, hey, well, if you're going to find a job, you better find one in Houston. I said, there's nothing here in Houston. The economy's so bad. And she goes, well, you're either going to commute because I'm not leaving Houston. She loves it here so much. And then she said, why don't you get into real estate? And I said, there's no way in hell I'm stooping to that level. And 3 months later, here we are. So we started the Loken Group officially in January of 2011. And we'll go through that entire journey, but that's a little background about how we came together and got started with this. So I'm going to try to show this presentation and we'll walk through it as best we can. Oh, that one's not it, right?
Your screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm trying here. That's not the right screen. Okay. We'll do this another one. There we go.
There you are.
And tried to put it into presentation mode. Can you see it in presentation? There we go. Okay. So everybody can see it now?
Yep, you're
Okay.
go.
Awesome. Okay. So here's the agenda for today. We're going to talk until 12:30 your time, and then we'll take a 10-minute comfort break, and then we'll do a mastermind Q&A session from 12:40 to 2 p.m. or whenever the questions stop. So that's the agenda. And one of the things that we have modeled our business after is this quote that I think Sarah St. Marceau found for us. It's success is built sequentially. It's one thing at a time. And it's been interesting, and I'll share a funny little story regarding this. From day one, when we started the Loken Group, we did everything from a business perspective. And what I mean from that is we sat down our first week and at the dining room table and wrote out our mission, vision, and value statements. And when you're business planning, that's what is normal. Here in real estate, you tend to just go out and lead generate and generate sales, but you have more of the sales mindset versus a business mindset. And from day one, we set this up. And fast forward just real quick, 3 years into the business, had the honor of being interviewed with Gary Keller on stage at Mega Camp. And as we were preparing for the call ahead of time, one of the last questions that was asked was, how has the MREA book impacted your business? And my response was, what's the MREA book? And the reason I share that, because I had to go home right away and read that book, obviously, before I went on stage with him. But the reason I share that is the way we built our business was almost exactly in the format the MREA book is written. And the MREA book is written from a business perspective. And so when we built our business sequentially, and we'll show you the timeline, but we focused on one major facet of our business every single year. Even this year, we're focused on client experience and growing our business. And we have our GPS or our 135 all built that way. So this quote is really modeled our business from the moment we saw this. So on the mission, vision, value statements, again, we sat down there and talked about what we were going to.
Hey, Lance, I hate to interrupt. This is like the best part, as I've heard you talk before, but are you guys getting static or is it just me?
A little bit.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
We are.
Okay, then let me jump on my phone.
Thanks, lad.
Yeah. Now is it better? Oh, I got to do one more. Mute.
Lance, do you want to go ahead and just have Elena talk about the mission as we go through and while you're getting your audio done?
He got muted. I'll unmute him.
All right, they're going to unmute you in a second, Lance.
Okay, are we good now?
Let's talk a little bit more.
Oh, unmute me on the phone one. You unmuted me on the computer.
Got it. Looking for you right now.
It should have my face.
You're probably at the last screen. We got a lot of people on here. It's awesome. Did I miss you somehow?
Does that work now? Did that work?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Perfect.
Okay, so again, we sat down that first week and wrote down our mission, vision, and value statements. And the mission statement came from the cover letter of my resume. So I thought it was really good. And as Elaine is going to share with you in just a minute, it wasn't so good according to them. Then the vision statement back then, what happened was we looked at the #1 producer in the Houston area, who also was the #1 producer in all of Keller Williams back in 2011. And that was Joe Rothschild, who also happened to be our team or our OP at the Market Center. So it's a three-headed monster there. But anyhow, I looked at his numbers. They were doing about 225 million. So I looked at that number and I said, okay, how are we going to beat that number within the next 6 years? And worked our numbers backwards. The first year we looked and we thought a good producing couple would do about 8 million in business. So we wrote down the number 8. And then the second year we would double our business, and that would be 16. We rolled it up to be 20. So 20 was our goal for the second year. In our third year, we felt like we'd triple our business because we'd really start getting the grind going. So we wrote down 60. And then in the fourth year, we thought, well, we're going to hit that $100 million plateau. And then from that moment on, we went in $50 million increments until in 2017, our goal was to do 250 million in business and be number 1 in Houston. A lot of people say, well, those numbers are ridiculous. And we had no real estate experience to justify those numbers. It was simply an equation of math and due process. The biggest part about that is we wrote those numbers down because that was our game plan or our path of attack. And then we focused on that first year number and didn't worry about anything else. Focused on 8 million that first year, we achieved the 8 million. We focused on 20 million the second year, we achieved 24. The third year was a goal of 60, we achieved 84. We didn't have to worry about where we were going because we had our pathway on what we wanted to accomplish and then just focus on each individual year separately. And I feel like that was a big path for us regarding that. And then our values, a cool little exercise you can do from a values perspective is take a list of what are the top 5 or 7 things that you would terminate somebody today for. And write those items down of what you would terminate somebody today for or offboard them off of your team immediately for. And after you've completed that exercise, turn it over and say, what is the opposite of those items? And Amy's going to show you our values, but that's basically how we come up with the values. Whatever is the opposite of what you would terminate somebody is probably something that you're most passionate about. And so we'll go through that. So Elena, why don't you go through the mission statement and the evolution of where we are today?
Yeah, so like Lance mentioned, our previous mission statement was kind of a Pledge of Allegiance style sentence, and it was super boring and no one could ever remember it. So we read Start With Why by Simon Sinek, which I highly recommend. We're big Simon lovers on the team. And we sort of as a team worked through this process of figuring out what really gets us out of bed every day. So over the course of a few weeks, we sort of narrowed this down to inspire a positive, lasting impact. And the reason I think everybody really resonated with this was because it doesn't limit us to just buying and selling real estate, which we love. We now have a 501c3, which benefits our community. You know, we do events like this because we love giving back to our realtor community as well. We want to elevate the nature of our entire industry, not just with buyers and sellers. So this positive lasting impact can expand into any, industry or any avenue in which we feel passionately. So that's kind of how we came about that. And just through the success of that, we did the same thing with our values and our vision statement as well.
Awesome. And then fast forward to our values. These have grown as well. And I would love for Amy to talk about the values of our organization.
Sure. I agree with Lance. I think when you're looking to formulate what values are most important to you, it's a really great idea to think about what are those non-negotiables for you? What are the things that are so important that would cause you to maybe want to be out of business with someone if they didn't align with certain things? And then that will help you drive into what are the values of your organization. Like Elena said, we've actually kind of revamped these here just recently. As a company, we've grown and evolved. Not that they changed significantly from where they started. In fact, they're very, very similar. I think we've just grown in clarity of what exactly we're looking for, and that's helped us define our values better. it's important to us, especially as we're going through the hiring part of our company, that we're all very clear on what our values are and what we stand for. It helps us find people like us. It helps us get in business with those people who ultimately will be a great fit for our team, because they should encompass these values naturally. These are things we really shouldn't have to teach somebody, or shouldn't have to work to fit somebody into this. It should be someone who very naturally aligns with who you are and what you believe in. So for us, we want someone who's humble, who's accountable, who has a tremendous amount of grit, who's innovative, constantly looking for solutions. So solution-based is another one. Integrity and servant leadership. I will say that one other piece that I don't know is a value, but is very, very important to us, is teamwork, and the understanding and connectedness with how important a team is.
We'll just add to that. We read as a team the book Traction, which was awesome. And this is kind of how we came about re-envisioning our values or revising our values. If you already have people on a team and you just want to get clarity around this, a really cool activity in the book is name the 3 people on your team who you feel are most in line with your organization's values. Now describe those 3 people so you can kind of back your way into what your values are. If you're just starting fresh, just like what Amy said, write down the things in which you might fire someone for, and then the opposite of that would be your value. So I think there's 2 different methods in which you can go about this process.
Perfect. And so that was our values. And then Sarah St. Marceau, why don't you talk about our vision and what's been interesting? And go ahead, Sarah, you can go ahead and talk about where we were with vision and where we are today.
Yeah, so like Lance mentioned, when he and Karina sat down early on and they were looking at the projection of the company, the vision at the time, and really up until recently, was a 10 to 15 year projection from a numbers basis of where we wanted the company to go. And so the vision was, at the time, we want to be a $1 billion company by 2021, I think, and a $2 billion company by 2025. 2025. And that sounds really great, and it looks really cool on paper, but it's not really a vision of the company. And much in the same way that our mission statement, when it was originally written, wasn't truly the mission statement of the company. It was 3 sentences off of Lance's resume. We wanted to make sure that our vision really resonated with the team, but was also a true measure of where we saw the company heading. And so, like Elena mentioned, we had been reading Traction. We also just read Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. And we started thinking about the vision. And truly, Simon Sinek says a vision should be an articulation of the view of a world in which you and your company and your people see yourself working towards. It's not a statement of where you are today, and it's not a statement of how you will execute that. It's where you envision the company being. Even if you never reach it, it might be that sort of ideal visual of the company. And so when we sat down as a team and really thought about what that would look like, we all came to, and it really became like a team effort. We had everybody vote on it. But at the end of the day, our vision statement and how we envision our company working towards is to revolutionize the real estate industry through unparalleled relationships. And what was really cool was when we sat down and looked at our new mission statement, vision, and values all together, how they worked hand in hand. Even though we revised them separately through different exercises, it really just solidified how all of them work together, and how now we know going in, and as we're hiring people, they can truly see where we're headed as a company and what our company values and missions stand for. So to Amy's point, these are the metrics that we use when we're hiring. And it also helps to make sure that people who are coming to our company feel like they're coming to a place that fits them as well.
Awesome. And so that's been the evolution of our mission, vision, and value statements. Step 2 in our growth has been to build with the end in mind. And what we've done from early on is our ultimate goal is to have 15% market share of the Houston metropolitan area. And to put that into perspective, there's about 100,000 transactions that are done a year in Houston. That's $200,000 sides, which taking 15% market share is 30,000 transactions in a single year. That is our ultimate goal. And from a retail perspective, which most of my career is in the retail world, when you look at infiltrating a market, your pedestal is always to achieve at least 15% market share, because then you know that you've infiltrated that entire market and you're going to grow at a massive level from that moment on. If you look at Starbucks, they build a Starbucks and put it in a specific area, and then they take a mile radius, and once they've achieved 15% market share of that 1 mile, then they build another store, and that's how they continue to grow. And that's been a benchmark from the retail world for many years, and so we adopted that same style. So our end goal is to have 15% market share. From a business perspective, we've operated a business from day one. We started out with an LLC, and then we've grown to, we're currently an S Corp. All of our logos are trademarked. We've registered them. So we're absolutely operating as a small business ownership. And then the number one priority in building an organization, and hopefully you've seen today an example of that, and that's your talent that you bring on board. We have an absolutely amazing team of an executive team that pours into their people at such a high level. And Amy, why don't you talk about the championship team conversation?
Sure. One of the things that I think has been really important for our journey and our growth of where we are now has been, again, kind of in gaining this clarity. We've had a lot of things that have led momentum and brought us to where we are. And one of the things we recognized was we have always done a good job of looking for talent, of focusing on talent, of knowing people are our number one asset to our business. And with the right people, truly anything's possible. We also recognize the need for clarity in our standards of holding ourselves to a championship level. If truly 15% market share is the mission, that's a championship team. And championship teams don't happen without championship talent, championship standards, and championship accountability. So we really have gained momentum in that space this year around what that talent looks like, what they really need to possess, not just possess it, but have those at a very, very high level, and be willing to work hard, right? Be willing to put in the practice. You know, we've said a couple times, the teams that get to the World Series or the teams that get to the Super Bowl, they didn't get there by accident, and they don't get there by not practicing. So we need people on our team that are willing to do just that, who are willing to practice like champions, hold themselves accountable to a really high standard. And as leaders, us grow into recognizing that we're doing them a disservice if we aren't holding them to that standard, if we aren't loving them enough to hold them accountable at a really high level to achieve what we know they're capable of, right? When you don't have somebody really leading that charge and believing with you and holding a line, it's easy for you to maybe settle into mediocrity or, you know, just being okay. And that's been a real growth space for us this year as a company and as executives.
Right, and Amy's going to dive a lot deeper in that when we go over discussing the inside sales portion of our organization, and that was a great summary there. Building a business. Oh, by the way, just to put the 15% market share into perspective, we are now, based off of real trends for large teams, we're number one in the world, regardless of brokerage, from a unit perspective, and we're number 3 in the world from a volume perspective. And in Houston, we have 2.58% market share. So if you want to pat yourselves on the back, you should feel very small because we've got a long road ahead of us to get 15% market share. We're not focused on being number one anymore. We're focused on gaining that 15% market share. So we have a lot of work to do yet. So building your business like a business. The 4 key components here: incorporate your business. Like I said earlier, we had an LLC and then we've grown into an S Corp. Talk to your accountant on the best way that you should incorporate your business. Some people are great with LLCs. We just have grown to the point where we needed to be an S Corp, so that's what works for us. Brand and trademark everything. Sarah St. Marceau will probably talk a little bit about that when we get into the marketing piece of our business. Don't treat your business account like an ATM. We have the Loken Group business account, and then Karina and I have our own personal account, and we pay ourselves a salary, and so we keep that separate. GCI is great. Net income is all that matters. And this has been a huge lesson for us, especially since last July. We experienced some growing pains. And as Amy alluded to a little earlier, we started growing in mediocrity instead of growing as a championship organization. And as we allowed mediocrity to creep into our business, we got to the point where in just one quarter, which was the fourth quarter of last year, we lost over $600,000 in just that quarter. And we had to come to some real hard conversations, some real fierce conversations within the executive team. And we collaborated together. We really got deep onto what needed to change, because what was working wasn't working for us at this moment. And we realized that we had allowed a scaling level of accountability. And that means, hey, if you don't achieve your goal one month, that's okay. We'll work on it for next month. And that sliding scale was never productive for us. And we had gotten to the point in the size of our organization that sliding scale wasn't working. And Amy especially got in front of her team and said, here's our new standards, and we love you so much that we're going to hold you to these standards because we believe in you and we believe in the profitability of the organization. So we fast forwarded. We are in a great space again. We are having record months again and record profitability. So it's been a very learning experience this past year, and we saw the light at the tunnel, and now we're reaping the rewards of those fierce conversations from, it started honestly last August, September, and October. So, from a business operations standpoint, we track and review our numbers daily. I'm going to have Sarah Detmore and Christina Wynn talk about tracking their numbers and reviewing them on a regular basis, because this has been an evolution of the executive team, specifically with those two. So Sarah Detmore, why don't you start off on what the evolution has been from a tracking number standpoint and why you loved numbers for so long? I'm being sarcastic, obviously.
No, I know. And yes. So, so we started our production tracking on the buy side really straight from the 4 conversations that KW suggests that we all track. And of course, we had to modify it a bit to fit the buy side of the business, because the 4 conversations primarily tracks your listing business. So, so for those of you who are familiar with the 4 conversations, we're tracking our appointments, our agreement signed. We're tracking our appointments. We're tracking our contracts, we're tracking our GCI, and then we're tracking, I think I said that right the first time, appointments, agreements, contracts, and GCI, closings and GCI. And so we took those 4 conversations and kind of expanded it even further. And this was, I'm thinking back to a conversation my MAPS coach and I had back in like January or February of 2018. And he and I had to work together, and also with help from Lance, to really get into a consistent tracking system, because we had the realization if we don't measure it, we can't move it. And so we just started tracking what we could track, and it was definitely a growing pain for me in getting the buyer agents to track their business consistently. And now I can say, of course, over the last 2 years, we are now tracking on a weekly basis our appointments that our buyer agents go on, whether or not they get their buyer representation agreement signed. We're tracking the number of buyers they take out to start home shopping. We track the number of offers that they write, the number of offers that are accepted, and then of course we track their closings and their GCI. So we took that 4 conversations model, and now we have like 6 conversations that we track, and it's really helped us to not only help the buyer agent stay motivated and understanding where their business is and what they have to do, small changes they have to make to get to where they want to go to hit their goals on a weekly and monthly basis. It keeps us from getting behind on our production, because we have the ability of making small changes week over week, as opposed to getting to September or October in the year and going, wow, we're not going to hit our goal. That stinks. Let's just move on. And so we can make those small changes as necessary week over week. And so my agents also expect in our one-on-one conversations that we're going to go through their numbers. We call them our KPIs, our key performance indicators. And we're going to talk about what they accomplished the week prior, what has to change this coming week for them to get back on track or stay on track to hit their goals. And if I notice that one of my agents is blowing their goals out of the water, we'll talk about increasing their goals. So it's really helped us streamline those conversations on a weekly basis. It's helped us identify where the gaps might be in our business and focus solely on the gap, because we don't want to fix something if it's not broken. And it's also really helped me as a leader just see from a high level how my team's performing on a weekly basis. And then that allows Lance and I to have some business conversations around the buyer team as well.
And what have been the results the last couple of months, especially?
Well, we've had 2 record-breaking months. So for our June closings, we had a record-breaking month for buyer units, and for July closings, we broke June's record, and we'll see what happens in August. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Christina, do you want to talk about tracking the numbers from your perspective?
Absolutely. So just to echo with a lot of what Sarah Detmore said, I hope you guys were taking really good notes, because key performance indicators, or KPIs, are so key. If you don't know where you're currently at, how do you know what needs to be done so that you can get to where you want to be? Very similar to the buy side, on the listing side, the KPIs that we track are the appointments that are set and kept, and the agreements that are signed. Also the agreements that are signed to when they go active, and when they go active to under contract. We don't necessarily track under contract to sold, just simply because Elena's team, as well as the listing team, have done such a phenomenal job with truly focusing on bulletproofing transactions. There's just certain things that we can't control. So when I'm coaching the agents, I'm encouraging them to focus on what they can control, which is skill set, which is how they show up, their attitudes, their mindsets, their activities, their tasks, their habits, good habits. And so a new KPI that we're also tracking is how many price adjustments do they need to make for a listing to get something under contract. That indicates and it tells a story as to whether or not they're pricing the listings correctly. And then on top of that, how many times are they going under contract that goes actually back to active? That's another skill set or KPI to monitor in terms of explaining how well they're negotiating. And then just like what Sarah said, depending on the week, we focus on the gaps, and we encourage the opportunities and encourage them to continue those habits that are working really well for them. So what it looks like on one-on-one coaching sessions with the listing agents is we go over the numbers. It's a quick conversation because they already set their goals from the prior week. We touch base on that. We do an energy check to see how they're doing. And then from there, figuring out where the gaps are. And if their goal is, for example, to go on 6 listing appointments the past week, and yet only 4 were booked, And their goal was to convert and have 4 listing agreements signed, and only 2 were signed. Then where we focus on is the tasks and activities that need to be pivoted immediately so that they can make up that gap for the coming week. One of the things that I also been doing moving forward is the entire pipeline that each listing agent has, from pre-active, meaning they haven't gone live on the market yet, they've met with us, signed with us, still working on getting the house ready, to activated, is forecasting that. Which listings, based on days on market and pricing and condition of the property, do you estimate will be a closing for the next months to come? And so that has been a huge game changer for them to have an idea of what it's going to take, rather than being very reactive to, oh my goodness, I only have 5 closings, my goal is 10, what do I do now? So Sarah Detmore and I have been being very proactive with encouraging the agents to pivot their activities in that moment, so that rather than playing catch up, they're being proactive with the activities ahead of time.
And Christina, why don't you talk about your record of conversion rates on the agreement sign piece that you just achieved?
Well, I believe that, what is it, over 70%, Lance? I think we've finally hit 70% from listing appointment kept to listing agreement signed. For the longest time, guys, and we'll talk about this later, our listing team was hovering at 48. And so it's been a long time coming. It's a combination of a team effort from the marketing team of getting really good leads, the inside sales team for truly digging deep on motivation and improving their skill sets, and alongside with the agents. So as a result, we had 62 closings for June and a record-breaking closing for 72 in July. And we're already set for 52 in August. And so we're just on track for hitting our goals for August as well.
And the key part about all of this from a tracking mechanism is we are now able to predict our business on a monthly basis instead of hoping for the amount of business on a monthly basis by tracking these numbers. And hopefully you heard they're tracking leading measures, and we're also tracking lagging measures. And we'll dive deeper into that in a little bit. The other thing we do is we forecast everything out 6 to 12 months. Sarah Detmore and Christina have just completed their analysis on what our budget is for next year. So we've already got that completed. We know what our numbers are, and they're starting already to get their agents honed in onto their goals for 2021. Start doing that now, so they come October, November, and December, they've already got the mindset of 2021 goals, so that when January hits, instead of playing catch up, we're going to already be attacking January full throttle. And that leads into the new year starts in October, where Amy's going to talk about from an inside sales perspective of it all starts there. The lead generating that starts in October leads to closings in January. And between her and Sarah St. Marceau, we'll talk about the lead process. Our planning advance is done every September. And what that is we create the GPS, or our 135 for the 2021 year. And we collaborate as an entire organization to come up with our GPS. And then come October 1st, we feel like 2021 begins that moment, because the activities that you do in October translate to closings in January. And then we come up with a GPS for each department. And then we have our 1-3-5-year plans already done. Currently, our plan, our vision is done out through 2036. We keep it several years in advance. And then we, from a hiring tool, we already know the people that we need to hire to our organization. We recently hired a director of talent acquisition, and James comes from a multi-million-dollar, multiple companies. And for the past several years, we've had people in that role, and they've made it work. They just haven't had the expertise as a recruiter. And now we have the privilege of having somebody that is a high caliber recruiter as our director of talent acquisition. And he's already made a massive impact on our business. And that's a full-time job for him. So we know who we're hiring in August. We know who we're hiring in October and December and so on, because we have our plan laid out already.
I love that. So smart.
So here's where we started in 2011. Karina, my wife, and myself. And then our first official hire was Tara. She was actually the person that I did my first transaction with. It was a lease that we did. And when I met her, she had a sense of urgency and she was very responsive. And that was what I was looking for in somebody to join our organization. And so right off the get-go, I said, hey, would you be interested in joining the Loken Group? And she goes, who's that? And I go, well, that's Lance and Karina. We're the Loken Group. And she goes, how long have you been in business? And she goes, I've never heard of you. And I go, oh, that's okay. We're going to be #1 in Houston in 2017, but we're just growing right now. And she goes, who? There's no way you're going to be #1 in 2017. There's these massive teams out there that have been in business for 30 years that are doing huge business. How many transactions have you done? Oh, you're my first transaction, but we're going to be #1 in Houston in 2017. And she thought, you know, you're nuts. And so for 6 months, I kept recruiting her. And finally on June 26th of 2011, I was on the phone with her and she said, you know what? I'm really comfortable doing what I'm doing. And I hung up the phone and said, great, you be comfortable and see where that gets you. Click. July 6th, she joined the Loken Group in 2011, and she's still with us to today. She has been really instrumental in growing our client experience department, and now she's in a support role for our director of talent acquisition and is helping with the administrative piece of the recruiting side of our business. So, and again, at the end of our first year, remember our original goal was to do $8 million. And we achieved 8.9 doing 50 transactions with the two of us. And a little thing here, which was a great conversation with Tara. I don't know who you are, but I will find you a house. That was our perspective. We were going to do whatever it took to take care of our clients and to get business.
Well, and I think too, Lance, year one, you were just focused on buyers, right? And it wasn't until year two that the light bulb clicked on for you.
That's right. I thought listings was stupid, honestly. I was like, why would anybody want to list a property? There's so much money that goes into listing a property. That's absolutely crazy. We're just going to focus on buyers and get as many buyers as we could. And then like Sarah St. Marceau said, here, fast forward to year two, in January, we sat down and had a goal of having 60 active listings by July 1st. Now, the little caveat behind that goal is that we went to Mega Camp in September of 2011, and up on stage there was this guy named Ben Kinney, and he was up there talking about this amazing home race. And I don't know how many of you guys remember the amazing home race that he talked about, but essentially you hold up a bunch of open houses in your area and people walk through all those open houses and answer clues. And whoever answers the most clues gets a $10,000 cash prize. And hopefully the person that wins that prize purchases a home. So while Ben's talking about this, he also said it's one person per city. And I'm like, me being Mr. Competitive there, I was like, oh, I got to get in here. So I immediately walked out of Mega Camp, called this company, got signed up. Oh, by the way, we were $250,000 in debt at this time. So this event, which we didn't know at that moment, but this event cost almost $70,000 that we didn't have. So smart me goes and stops paying our mortgage so that we could pay for this event, you know, real intelligent. Did I tell you that I was a chief financial officer? Anyhow, so fast forward, we had to have a whole bunch of open houses. And because in that first year, we had focused on buyers, we didn't have any listings. And so we needed to have a game plan or a goal. And we set out the goal of having 60 active listings by July 1st, so that when this event happened in March, we would still have quite a few listings. So we got to that event in March, the game plan, and I still have the marketing materials from that, was to have 5,000 people attend this event, because Ben had over 800 people in Bellingham, Washington. I'm like, well, if he can have 800 people with a population of 80,000 people in Bellingham, here we are in Houston with 6.5 million people. we can surely have 5,000 people at this event. So we planned for that and that had everything set up for it. In fact, we rented out the Barry Center, which houses over 10,000 people at the stadium. It's one of the biggest stadiums around. And we were preparing for 5,000 people. Get to the morning of the event, 180 people showed up. So it was a complete flop, one of the biggest mistakes ever in our organization. And I still feel like we would do it all over again because the exposure that it created for us helped us catapult into the business that we are today. So that second year, we had a goal of $16 million. We achieved 24.3, selling 117 units. So here, and that was the first 2 years of our business, and that's how we got started. Then we got serious about listings, leads, and leverage and accountability. The biggest thing here, and you guys have, I'm sure, seen this model several times, listings, leads, and leverage. And the light bulb went off at the end of 2007 and said, oh, we've got to really focus on listings. And so from that moment on, we have always focused on listings for our business. Leverage, we've created the organization that we have today, starting out with the executive team, and they've all been here for several years, and then with leads. And it's our responsibility as the rainmaker to generate the leads for our organization. Yes, they've got a prospect. Yes, they've got to do their own lead generation. At the end of the day, it's our responsibility as the team owner to generate enough leads for the business. And Amy will talk about that a lot during the inside sales piece. So talking about marketing, Sarah St. Marceau, why don't you take over here?
Sure. So really at the top of the lead funnel is marketing. And you'll see in a minute here our lead breakout in terms of business by lead source. But when you're thinking about marketing, you always want to make sure that at the end of the day, no matter how much you're measuring different areas of your marketing for success, just like Lance said with GCI, only net income matters. The same is true when you're looking at your marketing expense. You can look at cost per lead, but at the end of the day, if you're not generating at least a 3-to-1 ROI, the cost per lead really doesn't matter. You want to make sure that you're getting that at a minimum to make sure that you're optimizing your marketing dollars. So Lance and I review that on a regular basis and make adjustments accordingly. We just recently adjusted our radio and TV because we saw a drop in our ROI for that. So it's something you want to make sure that you're consistently measuring and adjusting as needed. When you're thinking about the marketing strategy, you really want to start first with who is your target audience? Who is it that you want to attract? And then think about the customer journey. So what are they doing throughout the day? What will that experience look like as they're working with your team? And Elena will talk a little bit more about how we're doing that from a client experience perspective. But as they're going through that journey, making sure that you're reaching the target audience in all the right places with the right message at the right time. And then constantly measuring for success. So one of the things that we've gotten really clear on is our KPIs. And from the marketing perspective, we're looking at everything from how we're growing our audience in the social media space and engaging them to how we are converting them through email. And so our number one job is to bring in leads that the ISAs can convert. That is what we want to do. And so we're digging deep even in our email conversions to see, you know, what's our open rate, what's the click-through rate, and also what is our timeline for conversion. So right now we're focused on how we can shorten that conversion timeline. It's about 8 months in email cultivation from the time the lead comes in until the ISA sets the appointment. And it's about 2.5 months on the listing side. So our goal is constantly to bring in leads, but also help the ISAs improve the conversions of those leads. In terms of our lead sources, this is our year-to-date lead source. As you can see, it's primarily inbound. One of the things that our team is heavily focused on this year is improving the conversions and increasing the business that we get from our data bank. So our Sphere, referrals, and repeat clients. So we have a lot of programs we're putting into place to increase that number. Obviously, that will generate the highest ROI for us, and it's the easiest to convert. But for the moment right now, we're pretty heavily stacked on inbound. As Lance mentioned, we're on TV and radio. That number is down slightly. We were actually dark on TV radio for about 3 or 4 months this year as we were catching up on our budget as we came into the year with quite a deficit. So again, this is when you're looking at your lead sources, and when Christina talked about conversions as well, I think the really impressive thing to note is that 48% conversion to over 70% conversion with a very heavy inbound lead source is a phenomenal feat, because again, these are the hardest to convert. So kudos to our buyer and listing team for how they're converting those leads. And then this is our current marketing team organization. We're basically a mini advertising agency. So because we have so many active listings, we actually had a need for 2 copywriters. So one copywriter is fully dedicated to all of our builder listings and resale. And he writes anywhere from 40 to 80 remarks a week. And then we have another copywriter who does all of our luxury listings, as well as writing our email campaigns, blogs, assisting with website and other copywriting needs. We have 2 graphic designers. We have a communication director. She oversees our email campaigns, and she also does everything from top to bottom on our CRM and works hand in hand with the ISAs to assist them on CRM conversions as well. We have a digital marketing specialist. She handles all of our social media for all of our brands across all of the platforms. And so, like Lance mentioned, we have a luxury brand, we have our TLG brand, we have our TLG Gives. So she handles all of the social media for that across all the channels. And then she also does all of our paid digital ads. And then we have a videographer that we hired last year. She does all of our luxury listing videos, as well as all of our email videos and internal videos.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah St. Marceau. And let's step into the inside sales model. Amy?
Awesome. So lead generation. Our inside sales team handles all things lead related. 99.9% of our business comes through our inside sales team. We funnel all of our inbound leads into our inside sales team. They're responsible for, again, 99% of all of our outbound lead generation. They own and handle and cultivate all of our forever client relationships. So truly, when we say our inside sales team, we literally mean 99% of all of our leads come through our inside sales division. Our first 100 days is really our sales launch program. We have a lateral model of producers on our team. So when we say producers, what we mean by that is our inside agents or our buyer agents or our listing agents. Those are our 3 different producers that are all very much lateral. It's a matter of through interviewing and getting to know that person, where are they most interested in being, where do their strengths lie, and where do we see them ultimately thriving most on our team. When we determine that, we then know what lane, what path they're going to be in, but they all would go through the same or very similar sales launch program, which is really our first 100 days there. It's where we spend time. Again, most of who we hire doesn't come from real estate. They come from corporate America in some way, shape, or form. Oftentimes they have sales background. It's just not specific to our industry. And so what we're doing through that first 100 business days is setting them up for success. Truly, it's giving them the fundamentals of real estate. It's helping them understand TLG and the way that we operate within real estate. It's giving them really great habits, setting time blocking habits, role play habits, the miracle morning, whatever your morning needs to look like for you to start your day with intention and be set up for success. Then it's also a lot of scripting and understanding scripts, how to read scripts, how to role play scripts, how to get better, how to do objection handling, what objections you're going to hear, how to handle them. So it's all of the things that we know just lead for a highly successful sales producer on our team that they learn through that time. And then should they go on to be a buyer agent or listing agent, they would then go into transitional training for that role. But we want everyone who's a producer on our team to understand lead generation at a really high level, to know how to do it, to have done it before in our team, to know how those systems work. Apparently Lance wants me to stop talking about that.
Oh,
so
no, I was just saying that you can show up the hierarchy of your department. Sorry.
All good. You tell me what to say and I'll say it. So this is a picture of what our team looks like right now. Currently have 12 inside sales agents, soon to be 15. We've got a couple more coming on here in the next few weeks. There's actually a director of inside sales that is really my right hand in the operation. She helps me with creating the systems and processes, quality assurance, the training, the accountability. We do weekly one-on-one accountability sessions with everybody on our team. We have an agent network specialist. She is responsible specifically for any of our agent partner relationships, are both inbound and outbound referrals for agents, would be Kelly Battenfield. And then we have some virtual assistants who support my team exclusively in helping us in the administrative stuff on lead generation. So with our lead management, truly this is all owned by inside sales. It is capturing a new lead, both inbound and outbound, putting them into our system, maintaining the contact and cultivation. It's our job to set ready, willing, and able pre-qualified appointments. The way that our system works is not by just getting a yes to go open a door. It's really making sure they're ready, willing, and able to buy or sell real estate. And then we put it into the system for our team to have seamless communication of knowing all the details that we've had. Outlook is the system that we use for setting calendar invites. That's the platform that we all work within. And Trello is our inter-department communication for our whole team. That's what it covers, our leads from appointment set to closings. Trello is the management tool that we use to communicate within all of our departments for that. And like I mentioned, the leads come back into ISA cultivation once they become forever clients.
Amy, do you want to talk about the commitment to sell and how we came about with that?
I can, yes. So one of the things that we, as I think you've probably gathered even along the way, we brainstorm and mastermind a lot around gaps in our business and how we close gaps. The conversions, like Christina mentioned, was a big gap for us. We were looking to increase, and we were brainstorming around what holds us back from getting someone to say yes immediately when we're in front of them at an appointment. And one of the things we recognized was that we really didn't have them sign anything for us in the way our process worked. We didn't bring the listing agreement or buyer representation agreement with us to the consultation. We spoke about it and we obviously had our consultation, and then we would send them information via email afterwards. So Elena and I were brainstorming really around how that could change and what we could do to have them sign something immediately. We know there's power in, psychology tells us when they can sign something immediately, it just changes your brain, right? Like it triggers something that you've already made a decision, and it's different than before you've signed anything. Your brain is still thinking, what do you want to do? And so this was how we came up with something that was simple, easy to understand, felt good for a client, didn't seem like too much pressure or too much, 10 pages of legal to really think through. It just was a pure, after everything we've talked about, are you ready to move forward? And it's a great way to A, either get them moving forward and you're on the same page, or B, vet out if there's still some objections we still need to handle. If they're not willing to sign this right now, at least now we know and we can ask why.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, Christina, you're up with the listings.
Great. So just to echo with what Amy said, that commitment to sell document is not on tlgshares.com, guys. So we're happy to share with you after the fact. Because of that amazing document, it has truly been a game changer for our conversion rates for a multitude of reasons. And I'm going to go back to the commitment to sell real quick, Lance. The reason is it was a tool at the consultation. As you know, it's not a legal document whatsoever. It's sometimes when we go to a consultation, the seller may say, yep, sounds good. Yep, I like that. Sounds good. And then we say, great. Okay, so when should we check in with you? And are you ready to move forward? Oh, no, we're not ready. So the purpose of that commitment to sell is really to open any gates that need to be open to further close the client at the consultation. And also, if it's an expired lead and somebody calls them and says, oh, well, I understand you're interviewing agents. Have you signed anything specifically? That seller may say, yes, I did sign something. Well, even though it wasn't a listing agreement, that definitely does help as well. But mainly it's a tool used to opening opportunities for further closing at the appointment, as well as really getting them to anchor in an NLP, the commitment to listing with us. So thank you for going back on that, Lance. Awesome. All right, so we're talking about the listing side. It covers 55% of our business. So what we do from a listing perspective is that we do go over their GPS and we go over the monthly goals, just like we mentioned earlier today with Sarah Detmore, that we go over the 4 conversations and then any additional KPIs that would indicate opportunities to improve skill set or to improve systems processes and maximizing the efficiency. At the consultation process, how that works is that the inside sales agents will set the appointment, and they do a phenomenal job with truly vetting out the sellers, digging deep on motivation. And that's so important and so key. Yes, you want to be able to provide service and providing a CMA or comparative market analysis, and we're just not there to give free CMAs. So what they do is, in tlgshares.com, there's going to be a list of questions. They vary from, if you were to sell your house, where would you be moving to? Tell me what's important about that to you. What would happen if you did sell? What would happen if you didn't? So what happens is they put that information in a calendar invite, and how the listing agents' calendars are set up is very much like a doctor's office. So on the weekdays, we have 10:30 and 1 p.m. and 3:30 and 6 p.m. appointments. I'm going to repeat that again. Ken's phone wants to really take charge. So again, that's 10:30, 1 o'clock, 3:30, and 6 p.m. appointments on the weekdays. And on the weekends, it's 9 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, I'm sorry, forgive me, 9, 11, 1, and 3. So the reason why we do that, why it's longer during the weekdays, is to create any buffer time in the event that there's traffic. And on the weekends, we've realized that traffic is not as heavy, it's pretty light. So the agents are able to cover all of that business within one day. The best part about that is that now we have a dispatch in Key, just very much like how Amazon dispatches the routes or for UPS or FedEx, very much the same way. And so what dispatch on our team does is they look at the appointments have been set. When an inside sales agent sets the appointment, it's not assigned to the listing agent yet. It's just they're looking at it, availability for time slot. It says here we have a 1 o'clock at 3:30 available. What works better for you? They pop in the appointment, and then what happens from there is dispatch will look at the location and see what's most efficient from a route perspective. Then they dispatch agents for certain areas. Here in the greater Houston area, we cover all 9 counties. That means you can drive from 2.5 hours from one point to another. It's pretty big city. So we want to make sure we improve that efficiency. Now, on the questions, when they set that appointment, the questions will dig deep into where you wanted to list the house at, what's your mortgage balance, what updates have you done? My favorite question is, what are the top 3 things you're looking for in an agent? It truly allows us to tailor our listing presentation that would best resonate what's important to that seller. And then also another favorite is if you're to rate for your house from a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate that? Wait for the answer. Okay, great. What would make it a 10? So if they say their house is a 10 and then we show up, and then when we show up and there's basically down home, then it's another fierce conversation that we need to have at the consultation where we would need to get them back to reality. Now, from there, we utilize a type form that Elena has created that makes it very efficient. At the consultation, we used to handwrite everything down. By the time we got home at 8 p.m., we're typing in our notes and it's just super inefficient. Now we have a type form that we just literally, just like you go to a doctor's office today, they check your symptoms and your vitals, they see how you're at, what you're doing, how you're doing, then they give you the diagnosis, and then they input all of that into a laptop today, very much the same way. So there are times, and by the time that I have left the listing consultation, listing documents are sent to the sellers right away, because Elena's team of listing partners, they're the transaction coordinators. We like to call them our listing partners or business partners, that they do a phenomenal job with truly driving that speediness and service. And so that's a combination of the consultation process. We run comps live at the consultation, meaning we bring our computer, unless we're going to a rural area, we'll have it saved beforehand. And we run the comps live because especially in the greater Houston area, the market has been slowly shifting downward, where inventory has risen for the past couple of quarters and years. With the exception right now, we're experiencing a temporary seller's market due to shortage in inventory in certain areas. However, overall, it's shifting. And so as such, we like to show the sellers right there live, as if we drop a pin on their house on the map, what active competition is around them. And when they see visually, because as how the brain processes is 83% is visual. Okay, so when we're teaching someone or going to a consultation, the brain processes things at 80% visually, then 17% is auditory, and the rest is kinesthetic. So with that said, we truly study things at a very scientific, a psychological, and an NLP perspective in understanding our consumer. So the role of the listing agents, they close minimum 10 closings a month, anywhere in their pipeline from pre-active, maybe 25 to 30 clients, active or under contract is up to 75 clients total. And Lance, that's luxury listings. Okay, yep. And so from there, that's their entire pipeline. They have anywhere between 40 to 75 clients in their pipeline. And you guys may be thinking, holy cannoli, that's a lot. And we have systems in place, and Elena's team of listing partners truly help pull a lot of the weight with our pre-active listings, so that the listing agent's 20% is role play, run comparables, show up to the appointment, get them to list with us. It's do price adjustment calls, making sure that we're staying proactive and getting them to adjust the price if needed, negotiating offers, negotiating repairs. And because of COVID, we don't even go to closings anymore. And so because of that system that we have in place, it allows the listing agents to truly focus on what is going to drive their business and our business moving forward. And what Lance is showing here on the listing team is it's myself and 8 other listing specialists. I believe our goal for 2021 is to have a total of 10. And the vision for the next couple of years is to have a total of 40 listing agents. Right now, as you can notice, in my department, it's not as big as Amy's department or Elena. So I don't have necessarily a success coach that coaches the agents on my behalf. And right now, one of the things that Lance and Karina do so well in encouraging us as an exec team is you always want to look for your bench. Write this down. Sometimes rainmakers feel really uncomfortable that, oh, well, I don't know if someone can take over. I'm a control freak. I want to control everything and do everything. Well, you're not going to grow your business that way. So as we are continuing to hire talent and making that a continuous priority, I already have in my bench 4 people that can carry my role moving forward, because they are the ones that are going to take this business forward. It's not me. And so one of the things that I love is you want to make sure you keep on looking for talent, build your bench always. So that's the listing team.
Thank you very much. Detmore. And we say Detmore because Sarah's with an H, and then we have Sarah St. Marceau without an H, and we just call her Marceau. So Sarah Detmore, you're up for the buy side.
Having a super common first name just gives everyone the opportunity to call you by your last name, which it's fine. So my hi has been waiting to talk for at least 45 minutes, so I'm super excited to have my moment. So as far as our monthly and yearly goals for our buyer agents, our standards for buyer agents on our team is to close a minimum of 4 closings a month, which equals out to 48 closings for a year. I'd say on average with some of our more tenured buyer agents and higher producing buyer agents, we're seeing them close anywhere from, I'd say 5 to 7 transactions a month. So we have several buyer agents that will likely end up this year anywhere between 50 and 70 units for the year. Our consultation process is similar but different from the listing side. So the majority of our buyer consultation appointments come from our ISA team. The buyers are qualified using our pre-qualification script the ISAs use. So our buyer agents receive notes and a calendar invite when an appointment is set for them. Right now, we're doing all of our buyer consultation appointments 100% phone or on Zoom or in any kind of virtual capacity. Of course, due to COVID, we're really holding back on meeting buyers in person until we know they absolutely have to see a house and have to purchase a house. So in our consultation process, we are of course setting all kinds of expectations on what's happening with the market, how active our market is right now. We're preparing our buyers for how to navigate a multiple offer situation, because that's a really real time situation our buyers are in almost 100% of the time. And we're talking through, how our team sets them up for success, how our team is structured, and, how our team stands apart from other agents and other teams, and how we can help them achieve their goals of homeownership. So we've really been doing some reevaluating of how we perform in our consultations. And in the past, we did, we focused more on fitting the buyer into our process. And we've kind of changed our mindset a bit on that, because while we do have a process that we want to follow, it's more important for us to meet the buyer where they're at. And so, for example, if we're in a consultation with a prospective buyer and they want to buy in a year, they're just looking for information, that's somebody that we still want to meet and get in front of and build that rapport and build that relationship. And then we'll cultivate it over time as needed, because when we can get in front of that buyer and give them the information that they need and set them up for success before they're actively starting to look, then we can really take them through what that timeline looks like that's going to make the most sense for them. I don't know how many of you on here of the 109 participants have ever shown a buyer who doesn't need to buy a house. That's a really inefficient way to get a buyer under contract. So we do our very best to make sure that we are only stepping foot inside a property with a buyer when we fully understand their time frame and motivation. And not only do we understand it, they have one. They have a time frame. They will be homeless if they don't buy a house, and they're buying a house for a reason. So we go through all of that in our consultation process. And the goal at the buyer consultation for the agent is, of course, to dig deeper on the motivation, dig deeper on the time frame. We want to make sure we really understand what the buyer's goals are and how we can how our team can help the buyer achieve their goals, and within their time frame, of course. We do talk about our transaction process, and on the buy side, we have 3 transaction coordinators that fall under Elena's team, and they take our files and process them from contract to close. So once we get an offer accepted on a property, the buyer agent will introduce their transaction coordinator to the buyer, and then the transaction coordinator serves as that liaison between the buyer, the title company, and the lender. They make sure all of our documents are signed. Buyer agents are notoriously horrible at paperwork, so thank goodness we have them. And they also keep us in line with our contract deadlines, and they make sure that we never miss a closing date, because they're so in tune with our lenders and the title company to make sure that everything stays on time. What a buyer partner is, it's kind of our version of what some, Lance, not yet, back it up.
No, I have the buyer partner on here.
Okay, so our buyer partner role on our team is kind of an evolution of what some teams or some agents would call a showing assistant. We don't like to use the word assistant on our team. And so how this kind of came about is, back in 2015, before I had my first child, I was in full production. I was also leading the buyer agent team at the time. And before I stepped out on maternity leave, Lance and I had always had conversations back and forth about having showing agents on our team. And I don't want to say we fought about it yet. From Lance's perspective, he said, Sarah, we're already very leveraged. We have the inside sales agents, we have the transaction coordinators. There, really shouldn't be a reason a buyer agent couldn't handle their showings. Fast forward a few months when I came back from maternity leave and now had this tiny human I had to keep alive and also be home in evenings and weekends to keep alive. That really changed, I guess my perspective as a top producing agent on our team. And I went to Lance again and I said, either I need to scale back my production, which wasn't an option, or I need some help. And he said, okay, you can hire somebody, train somebody, and pay somebody, and you can have showing help. So naturally, I hired the first person I found that could breathe and open a door and drive a car. And that was the biggest mistake. We can talk about that offline later. However, I think that's a conversation worth having, because whenever we knee-jerk hire, it never works out, right? And that's where Elena mentioned at the top of the call here that the pre-career visioning process, things were very different. And shame on me for making that hire the way that I did, because it actually made me work more because I was having to take care of a lot of things that I shouldn't have had to. So fast forward a year from then, I was pregnant again and needed another showing partner to bring on board. And that's when we really reevaluated what we wanted that role to be. So we decided to create that role and call it a buyer partner. And what it is it's truly an extension of the buyer agent. So a buyer agent and buyer partner work in tandem together on all of their clients with all of their files. They have a commission split that's just between the two of them. And the way that we reevaluated and revamped that position really changed the way that our buyer agents can leverage themselves in a showing capacity with their clients. So you can see here on the screen our org chart right now for the buyer team. I actually have 10 buyer agents, Lance, but that's okay. So we have 10 buyer agents and I have one buyer partner who is working 100% with one of my buyer agents.
And talk about your upcoming opportunity.
What do you mean? Oh, yeah. So I know what you mean. So we've also been doing just some reevaluating on the buyer team on how we can best leverage our buyer agents and keep them in their 20%, which is their dollar producing activities. So because our business model is such that our buyer agents get in front of buyers and get these buyers to commit to working with them a little bit earlier in their process, there is some follow-up involved with these buyers who maybe have to get their credit fixed, or maybe have to sell their home before they buy, or perhaps they have a lease to finish out, whatever that could be that keeps them from buying a house right now. We don't want to lose that buyer because they've already met with our agent, they've committed to working with that agent. And so we've just recognizing in some gaps in our business how we can better leverage our buyer agents to make sure we're working on closing those gaps. And so one of our buyer agents who comes back from maternity leave in September is now going to move into a role we've created called a buyer agent concierge, which will be our pre-contract admin position with the buyer team. So she will be responsible for doing some lead follow-up, prepping contracts for our buyer agents, really doing some behind the scenes stuff with contacting agents to get questions answered, things that slow the buyer agents down while they're out in the field on appointments or out in the field showing property, and things that they might not get to until, like Christina said, 8 p.m. at night when they get home after all of their showings or their appointments. So it's a way for the client to get that instant gratification of getting what they want or what they need to still move them forward while their respective agent might not be at their computer at that time. And then with that, we're also going to implement another dedicated virtual assistant on the buy side to help with some other miscellaneous admin tasks, so I can keep the buyer agents in their 20%, which are consultations, negotiations, showing houses, and writing contracts.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah Detmore. And I know it's 11:30. We're going to go for about 15 more minutes with the presentation because we've got the best for last with the operations of our business. And then we'll take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for Q&A. And Q&A will run for as long as you guys have questions for us. So, Elena, take it away.
So on the operations team, we currently have 5 listing partners. We also have 3 buyer transaction coordinators. We've talked about them a little bit already. We also have 3 photographers on staff, as well as someone who edits all of our photos. We have a dispatch coordinator because Houston is so large. We dispatch all of our photography and outside agent appointments based on location. And then I have an operations specialist who does a lot of the running of documents and checks and mail and all of that good stuff outside of the office as well. So additionally, we have 7 virtual assistants who also support our admin team. We are currently in the process of transitioning to Command. We run a pretty big business, as you could tell, so it's not something that could happen overnight. So we are doing that in pieces. One of the questions I get most frequently is about our transition to Command. So currently, we're only doing commissions within Command. Within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we're going to be transitioning compliance and documents over to DocuSign, which is awesome. And then our goal is to eventually do everything through Command from a transaction management standpoint. We're currently using Trello, as Amy mentioned earlier in the presentation. So that is a team collaboration software in which we can kind of see transparently into all of the transactions. That's where we keep all of our checklists and everything. It is not client facing, it's only internal. So we are still using Outlook and texts and emails and calls and things like that to communicate with our clients. We don't have a client care representative on the call today. However, I'm happy to talk about client care a little bit. We have a client care coordinator on our team. Her sole job is to make sure our clients are just having a really excellent experience with us. So she is responsible for surveying our clients throughout the process. And the reason we do that is so that we can error correct along the way. A lot of people, I think, they survey or they ask for a review from their clients at the end of the transaction. And if they didn't have a good experience, we don't have the opportunity to correct that. So we're surveying them on the list side after the listing goes active, after they go under contract, and then after close. And then on the buy side, we're surveying them after they go under contract and after close. And Jamie does an amazing job of taking all of that feedback that we get. She tracks them on a monthly basis. We have KPIs around client experience that each department is expected to meet. And then we have KPIs as a team that we monitor very closely and make corrections to along the way. Sarah alluded to this earlier, but we're currently mapping our client journey as part of our client experience task force. And what we're doing in that project is really trying to figure out, how is the client feeling at this point in the process? Oh, well, if they're feeling anxiety, what can we do as a team to eliminate or minimize that anxiety? What tweaks do we need to make to our process? And we're doing that for every client-facing aspect of our process along the way. And I think that's going to make some really awesome positive changes to our organization. We're finding right now that people are super high anxiety. They have very short fuses because of the nature of the things they're experiencing due to COVID. They're stuck at home with their kids. There's a lot of social unrest and economic uncertainty. So we're dealing with that. Things that they might have not worried about before now become very big challenges for us. So it's some of those, the toughest times that we need to really be cognizant of what we're doing from a client experience perspective. So mad props to Jamie for just owning that space and making sure that our clients have a really excellent experience.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, we're gonna go back a little bit with Sarah St. Marceau on the luxury side, and both you and Christina can talk about that. Marceau, why don't you start talking about how we created the luxury piece while I go back?
Okay. I know we're short on time, so I'll make it really quick. But one of the things that we were having a challenge with a few years ago, as the Loken Group was becoming really well known, we were on the radio, we were on TV, we were starting to get a lot of inbound business from the marketing that we were doing. But the challenge we were coming up against in the luxury space is that, the Loken Group was not known for or perceived as a luxury company or a luxury brand. And, we were kind of getting into the upper tiers in Houston. luxury, depending upon the neighborhood, can be anywhere from 500,000 to 650 and up. The average price point is around now about 300,000, but at the time it was 250,000. And so, we were trying to figure out, how do we get over the $1 million threshold? And how do we get sellers to see us as a luxury company? And at the time, we were reading a book called Positioning, and it talks about the ways in which brands are perceived. And they talked about a case study with Lexus and Toyota. And although Toyota and Lexus are owned by the Toyota Motor Company, Lexus in and of itself is a completely separate brand with a separate website, look and feel. You may not even know that one would be owned by the other. And so what we realized was we were just trying to go uphill on a battle we wouldn't win if we were trying to get luxury under the Loken Group. So why not form a Lexus company? And that's what we did. We formed Portfolio Real Estate. It's part of Keller Williams Luxury International. There's an Austin portfolio, a San Antonio portfolio. And so we did that here in Houston. And what's really cool is that we didn't change anything other than create this new brand. And all of a sudden we were able to convert luxury listings at a higher price point by talking about the fact that we have this luxury brand, we have a luxury team who's experienced in luxury, and we were able to convert $1 million and up luxury sellers and buyers. In fact, I think our highest price point to date, right now we have a listing that's 4.8 million. So if you're thinking about getting into luxury, just take that for what you will. It's a little bit hard to get into luxury if you're not known for that and you've already have a lot of awareness. So you might consider creating a separate luxury brand. And the opposite is true if you're known for luxury and you're trying to get into the lower price points. The only other thing that I'll say about this process is we do approach it a little bit differently. We spend a little bit more in marketing. We do custom videos for our luxury listings. We create a buyer and property persona brief, which I'm happy to share if it's not on TLG Shares. I basically just took a creative brief from my marketing and advertising days and revamped it for this. But that is it on our portfolio and luxury brand.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sarah St. Marceau. So we're going to fast forward now through the ending, and the most important piece of our organization and the way that we've built everything has been from a culture perspective. And I would love for each of the executive ladies to talk about what culture means from their perspective. And Sarah St. Marceau, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
Well, so, I mean, culture can mean a lot of different things. The first thing that comes to mind for me, and it's one of the reasons why I joined the Loken Group, is I wanted to work at a place where I would be empowered to do my job, and everyone on the team would be empowered to do their job, but also a place where we would be supported from leadership through training and through resources. And Lance and Karina have done such a phenomenal job in creating that space for our team and really showing us what leadership looks like. I think we've all worked in places where we've seen the downside of bad leadership. And so it really starts at the top. It starts with Lance and Karina. They've shown us what leadership should look like. And that's everything from, again, like I said, helping us all feel empowered to do what we need to do and fail while we're at it. Failure seems like a bad F word, but for us, it's how we learn. And I don't know how many times I've come into Lance's office saying, I screwed up, here's what I did, and here's how I'm going to fix it. And then I walk away and he lets me do what I need to do to get to that resolution. So that's culture for me, is that freedom to fail forward.
Perfect. Elena?
So one of the things that I've always loved about our organization is the commitment to personal growth as well as professional growth of everyone on the team. So every year we each do a brand new vision board and we present it in whole or in part to other members of the team. As A, accountability, and B, so that we can support each other in meeting those goals. So I know I've never worked for an organization that cared as much about my growth and achievement as I did. And having that camaraderie is really important to me. I think that we all celebrate when someone crosses something off their vision board. We make a big team announcement and it's really fun, and it's cool to see the people that you care so much about achieving, buying a house or buying a car or taking their family to Disney World. Just anything like that has been really awesome experience for me personally.
Perfect. Amy?
I agree with what everyone here said. I mean, it's just, to me, the one thing I love most is that we're like a family. We succeed together, we fail together, we learn from those failures. We don't, take them just as failures, we take them as the opportunity to learn and get better, like Sarah said. And above all else, we're a team, we work as a team, we lift each other up. We're here for each other. I mean, I can't say how many times I maybe don't have a clue of what I'm doing. And I'm calling one of these ladies, if not all of these ladies, to say, what do we do now? And that's just, I think, part of what leads to our success and that kind of magic piece that is our culture. I think it's very hard to find a place where you have so much trust in one another and in the mission. So I love that.
Thank you. Detmore?
Hi. Really appreciate using this picture and not the one from planning advance the year before. So again, what Sarah and Elena and Amy said all rings true for me as well. Amy mentioned we're like a family, and it's such a unique place to be in a group where there really is that level of trust. And when it comes to culture, I went to Texas A&M, which a lot of people call a cult school, and we're very rich in tradition. And there's a saying from Texas A&M that the culture is so strong that from the outside looking in, you don't understand it, and from the inside looking out, you can't explain it. And I don't know if I've just worked here too long or what the deal is, but I feel the same way about this company, because when we're at KW events or in masterminds like this, people will say, well, like, how do you even get this culture? Where does it come from? What do you do? And my easy answer is it comes with the right people and the right like-minded people. And again, it starts with leadership and Lance and Karina. And so as leaders of the team as well, we're tasked with just, carrying that vision and carrying that mission through the rest of our departments and the team as a whole. And I think we've done a really good job, maybe not a great job, but a good job of just maintaining that culture and making it almost scalable as our team continues to grow. I know, at least with these ladies and Lance, I know that you're obviously not a lady, but we have conversations about our relationships and our kids. And if I had to just dump my kids on anybody in this team, that I would feel comfortable doing that. And that's a really good feeling and a comforting feeling. And you'd have to roll me out of here to get me off this team. So.
Thank you, Detmore. Christina?
Echoing off of what everyone said, and on top of that, as a high D, trust is something that doesn't come naturally to me. I have to work really hard, and so it's really refreshing, especially coming from corporate where you just have to cover your butt, blind copy people, watch your back, then you end up getting run over by a bus, then it goes in reverse, runs you back over, forward, runs you back over again, and it's just not a really good feeling. For the very first time in my entire life, I have found a family that I never thought existed. These are basically sisters from a family or another mother that I never had. And Lance, you're a sister too. And so just really love everybody here. And it's just really refreshing to know that there's not a day that goes by that I don't make a mistake or screw up. And it's instead of, you forgot to do this, or why didn't you do this? It's, hey, Christina, I got your back. I noticed that this wasn't done, so I just helped you out. And it's just really refreshing, and you don't get to see that very often. And very humbling, because there's ego is just, it doesn't exist. And when someone does, we're all human. When someone is has a little bit too much of that, they put them in their place. So the sisters here, the other exec ladies here, they have absolute permission to put me in my place and call me out on my stuff. And so that that said, I do appreciate that support, that level of support and that love and care that you just can't put your finger on, you can't describe. And so this is something that's truly invaluable, and something that we worked really hard on, and we all fail forward. Everything in this presentation, guys, is not because we have our stuff together, it's because we make that many mistakes and we just learn the hard way and the fast way. So I'm very humbled to be a part of this family. So that's why culture is key. I'm not going anywhere either. You have to roll me out too, Lance. So you're stuck with us.
There you go. Thank you, everyone. Lad, do you want to take us to break for the 10-minute break?
Definitely. I just want to say thank you. We're going to take a comfort break. Before we did that, I messaged Lance and just asked if we could talk real quick. You guys know we were supposed to have his entire team. They were going to fly up and we were going to do this in person. And Lance, we didn't even know that was a possibility. We were going to bring Lance and he said, well, why don't you bring the whole team? So we were going to do that. Obviously, COVID changed the plans. This has been phenomenal. We'd still probably love to bring you guys up one day. But Lance has been a mentor to me for years. I've learned a ton from him. I'm super inspired from today. I already got 7 pages of notes. What I want to say from giving back is there's his charity right there, tlgshares.com and tlggives.com. And what I want to say from the Market Center is we will donate. We'll donate $1,000 and then we'll match whatever anybody does up to $2,000. So we got 100 people here. We should probably go even higher than that. I would love to see what we can do. This is, I mean, I don't know what you guys think. This is super valuable, how much you'd have to pay for this kind of content. I literally wrote everything down, and I'm texting my director of sales the whole time going, oh my gosh, he's probably going to avoid me for a few days. So guys, go to those websites, let's give, and we just can't thank you guys enough.
Our pleasure. Thank you very much, Lad. And yeah, TLG shares, you can have all this, and we'll send this presentation also to Amanda. And so anyhow, go ahead and do your 10-minute comfort break. Anything else you want to add, Amanda, or are you good?
I was just going to say, slide out to use the restroom if you need to, and everybody get back and we'll head right into questions. And I think we'll be wrapping up early unless we've got a load of those questions. So we'll go to 1 o'clock on the dot, do that.
Okay.
And that would be 2 or noon your time, right?
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And while you guys are jumping off, if you haven't seen it before, tlgshares.com is everything that they run their team on. They put in a drive and that you can download it. It's amazing. We've had it for years and we look at it. They probably got tired of people asking them to send them stuff, so they put it all up there, and then you can have information on their charity from there as well.
We got 2 minutes. I'm glad
Really enjoyed
nobody-
this.
Oh, it's been
Really,
awesome.
I really enjoyed this. Thank you so much, Lance, and all your team for this.
Our pleasure. It's been an honor.
I was just sharing how there are some people who are probably so far from this place, and yet I think one of the coolest parts of your story is that you saw it in your head before you began. And I think a lot of people struggle with the vision of what it could look like, you know, and this to me is such a gift to give somebody who's just beginning and or at any phase of the real estate growth.
Thank you. Yeah. And again, we had what we did was we looked at that #1 producer in Houston and then said, okay, what steps do we need to do in order to achieve that? And then ultimately we've gone with the 15% market share model. And literally we've planned out every year from now through 2036 in order to achieve 15% market share. And I don't even look at the spreadsheet every year, except when we're doing planning advance. I'll make adjustments accordingly depending on the previous year's business. Like next year, for 2021, we were supposed to do $1 billion. Right this second, we're focused on 838 million for next year. So we're going to make adjustments, but at least we can tweak it instead of have it hard and fast. It gives us a pathway.
Absolutely. All right, so it's 1 o'clock. I can kick us off for the questions. It's, you know, coming out of corporate sales, Karina becoming Rookie of the Year, and you guys teaming up. Who did you know, for me, I think about a lot of people that I've met or in business with, and they didn't target that #1 spot, but maybe they looked at the top 20. Who did you have to become, or how, you know, to dare so greatly to go for #1? Why that number? And what does that do for you?
StrengthsFinder 2.0, if anybody's ever done that analysis, and it's Tom Rath, I believe. Anyhow, my #1 strength is competition, so that's probably why that I went there. And what's been really cool is there were people that we used as benchmarks so that, okay, this is the next person we want to knock off the totem pole, not from hurting them. It's just, okay, we want to get to their spot, then we want to get to their spot. And I can name each of those individuals and then teams along the way. And now we have lots of bigger businesses to go after. And again, we stopped competing against other people. We're focused on ourselves and what we need to do in order to achieve 15% market share.
Well, and I just want to add to that because Lance is a huge risk taker. And I think that also is how and why we were able to move the needle so quickly. He's willing to take the risks. He's willing to spend $70,000 he didn't have when he was already $250,000 in the hole, risk the mortgage in his house to make things happen. And when Lance stood up in front of the market center when he first got his license, and as a brand new agent said, I'm going to be that guy, and was pointing at the #1, you know, team in Houston, everyone laughed, and it didn't faze Lance at all. He knew what he wanted to accomplish, and he was going to take the risks to get there. So I think that also, you know, says a lot about our leadership.
Well, and hopefully it was calculated risk. Like, I feel like I've done research in order to make those risks. And especially now, we have an organization of 85 people that we have to protect. We're responsible for those 85 people and their families. I wake up every day focused on that and making sure that we are making business decisions to protect our organization.
Fair. I've got a line of questions, but I'm going to give the agent some chances to ask some too, in case they have some. Who's got a question? Jason Bell.
Yeah. Hey guys, I really enjoyed this. So I'm Jason Bell, Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been with Keller Williams 8 years. Just had my best year. Things are going great, and I'm getting a lot better at letting people go. So I think I'm a bit of a nice guy. I've had to grow into this position where we're working with standards and when necessary letting people go. So can you speak about that? Do you follow the 30, 60, 90 model, or does it depend on the role? So for example, does it differ from ISA? Is everyone in ISA first on your team before they can become a buyer's agent?
Go ahead, Amy. You can tackle this lovely question.
So yes, everyone would go through a sales training that would be the same training an ISA would as they're going to be a buyer agent or listing agent. We have 30, 60, 90s that we've put together for all of the different roles on our team. And what would be your follow-up question to that?
Well, why don't you talk about standards a little bit, Amy, and like being a friend versus being an accountability partner?
So I think that's a challenge for us all in leadership. It's especially, like you said, Jason, I'm sure you're a nice guy. When we're nice people who generally like people, it is having to learn the difference between being likable and being friends. Because when you're friends and you have a deep connection with someone, it's difficult to then have that accountability to standards. So I think there is that little bit of, saying that holds true that leadership is lonely. You want to be friendly with people. You can't form too strong of a connection because it does make it then difficult for you to be unbiased in the relationship as it relates to your business. I think step one of accountability is standards, knowing your standards, knowing what your minimum expectation is, know what you're not willing to accept in your business less than, and then make sure you have all of the tools and systems and resources around ensuring you're giving them what they need to be most successful in those spaces, right? It's easy to say, well, I do this, so I think you should do this, and I won't accept less than this. But if I didn't train them on how to be who I am or how to learn what I know, we're setting them up for failure, right? And so I think there is that piece of ownership that you really have to, step one is, do I have the training? Have I given them all the tools and resources that they need so that I can hold them accountable to that level? And if the answer is yes, then it's a matter of just changing your mindset and perspective a little bit to ensure that, you're setting up those accountability and you're not willing to, walk the line or let things go.
Yeah, you said earlier, I think it may have been Lance that said earlier, to not allow mediocrity to seep into the organization and to not kind of kick the can down the road. So if the numbers really weren't created this month, that's not okay. If there's a difference between a goal and a standard. So I just really want to thank you for answering that. Thanks.
Of course.
Hey, Jason, if you didn't see, their 30, 60, 90s and everything are actually posted on tlgshares.com. You can download the stuff that they actually use, and then it's got the donate link there for their 501c3. They don't charge anything for that.
Thank you.
We've been using them for years.
Other questions? Keep them coming.
I have a few. Let me start my video so you can actually see me. I am Whitney Collins. I am the listing coordinator and one of the transaction coordinators at the Tremblay Group. I have a couple of questions. I would love to know more about the agent calendars because that's not something that we're doing, and I would love to implement that. Do they put, I know we touched on the listing appointments, so do they put like listing appointments, buyer appointments, personal stuff? I mean, they just use that and time block their calendar out completely?
Christina, go ahead. And then Elena, you may want to interject too.
That's a great question, Whitney. So first and foremost is time blocking the personal commitments, whether it's your family or vacations. And then from there, they are expected to time block 2 weeks out. Now, that doesn't mean every 15, 30 minutes needs to be time blocked out. It means they have the follow-up time, they have lunch, they have the appointment times, which we put in the chat box earlier. And so how in the listing role, how it looks like now is they go on appointments one weekend day, and they have 2 admin days during the weekday. Admin doesn't mean that they may take some phone and Zoom if it's last minute. However, they're not expected to be on the road. They're able to call their clients and spend that time staying on top of emails and Trello. So for example, we also have At Your Service. I forgot to talk to you about that. At Your Service is more of a time block throughout the week where certain agents cover that shift, and it comes in as last minute calls, last minute appointments, expert phone calls. And what an expert phone call is someone that has a question about our guarantee sale program, is just curious about their home value, not necessarily motivated, or has a general real estate question that just needs to be answered quickly by an expert. Those calls are not counted against our conversion rates. And so they have those shifts throughout the week. And if you wanted to, later on, we can all share our emails. I'm happy to send you a screenshot, but definitely I encourage the listing agents to have me time in the morning, whether it's quiet time, meditation, journaling, setting the intention for the day, some blood flow, just very much like what Amy mentioned, the miracle morning. Then they do their administrative emails, Trello. Then they start making their calls, sometimes as early as 8, sometimes as late as 9, because they are focusing on that particular activity before they switch gears to stay as efficient as possible. Hope that answers your question.
Well, and I'm going to interject a little bit. One of the things that we've built as part of our organization is we want everybody to be doing what they're absolutely the best at doing. And our inside sales organization is amazing at lead generation. Listing agents, they're amazing at negotiating contracts and working with high D, from a high D personality perspective. We treat the listing side of the business as a business transaction, the buy side as a relationship, emotional, an experience. And so you've got the cultivating the relationship building on the buy side, and that's what they're amazing at. The listing side, they're good at getting stuff done at the end of the day. So anyhow, as we built the organization and built it around their expertises, we enable the ISAs to perform at a very high level at lead generating. Our listing agents, their job is to do income producing activities. The buyer agents, their responsibility to do income producing activities for their perspective. So they're not lead generating on a daily basis. They are handling their clients on a daily basis. And hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. Mia asked in the chat, can you speak to what it looks like to be ready for an ISA if you're a single agent that does lead generate, the buyer agent and listing agent? Oh, love it. Okay, I'm reading the rest of her chat. What does it look like to be ready for an ISA if you're a single agent or building your team? At what point do you bring them on?
We've always used the 80-20 rule as far as that's concerned. So go back to the first year of business. For the most part, Karina did all the lead generating because she loves to be on the phone. That's a passion of hers. She just loves to talk. I like to just go get stuff done and close deals. And so she would set up the appointments for me and I would go out on the appointments. So from day one, we had quote unquote an inside sales role responsibility. And then I was the producing agent that went out and closed the deals. And she was amazing at setting up those appointments and getting the motivation behind that, and the case may be. But once Karina got to the point where she was at 80% capacity and even a little higher, then we had the awesome pleasure of meeting Sarah St. Marceau. And she's truly the one that built the inside sales organization from one person to when she transitioned into the marketing and luxury role, she was at 10 ISAs. And now Amy, from a accountability and a coaching perspective, she's just raised that whole game to another level. But at the end of the day, we try to use the 80-20 rule. When you get 80% capacity, then you're looking for leveraging off those pieces. And I use $20 an hour as a rule. You should consider yourself to be capable of earning at least $20 or more an hour. So leverage up all those items that cost less than $20 an hour. So administrative paperwork,
Uh-oh.
things that'll cost less than $20
an hour, and I can leverage them up.
I love that. A lot while we're with the ISA conversation, Sarah, if you think back to when you were building this, did you hire one at a time, or I've heard people going, I'm going to hire two, constantly keep building that division so that you wouldn't get the job back? Because I know some teams have a history of not retaining ISAs. It seems to be one of the most challenging roles across the organization to retain. So can you talk about that just a little bit? I mean, and Amy definitely pour into that. I just know Sarah was there at the start.
At the beginning, we were hiring one at a time, and it was not too long after, I want to say it was the early part of the following year after I joined, we really turned the ISA program into the foundation for inside and outside sales. So prior to that, you know, buyer agents were hired and went through a different training program, but it then turned into, you know, if you were going to eventually become a buyer agent or listing agent and we hired you for that role, you needed to go through the ISA training first. And I do think because we've made it a lateral position and we've made the compensation such that if you're really doing your job at a high level as an inside sales agent, you can earn, you know, six figures. You know, it's just that it looks a little bit different than an outside agent. So I think we've been able to stem some of the turnover for that reason. Amy can talk about how the training has changed since then. And I know she has also done some training where she's hired several at a time and what that's looked like.
Yeah, we did evolve into hiring as best we can, two at a time, if not more. There's been times where we've brought on more in one group just because it made sense and we had the right talent ready to go. And what we find is that it really helps us and them. So the win for us is that it's a leverage of time, in that we spend a lot of time in training. There's a lot of almost like sessions where we're teaching them about fundamentals and rapport building and mirroring techniques and matching and objection handling and tie downs and embedded commands and so many things that just are such a time, you know, a time suck, if you will, but in a really great way. We don't want to not invest the time. They deserve it. And it's what will lead us to ultimate success. And so when we can partner them together, that helps us leverage our time. And then the win for them is they have somebody who they're in this with, right? There's just somebody who does what they do. It's really hard as a new person scripting with someone who is masterful 5 years in, right? Because the person who's 5 years in just doesn't slow down to teach you I'm just trying to get the first line out without sounding silly, right? So they're just on such different pages. It can be helpful for the new person to have somebody who's just on their level, who they can talk through that very rudimentary stuff with. They can script practice without going way off the deep end in objections. And I find it keeps them on path better when there's someone. And it also helps the accountability of doing what's asked of them. Our training is very self-guided in the sense that once they get past weeks 2 and 3, we're expecting them to really own practicing and watching videos and doing things in the systems to learn it themselves. And so having someone to help keep them on track and to work with has been helpful too.
When you said that, in my mind, my head went to that old graph. I think it was in Recruit Select, and it was the think control graph. And it's like how it sounds as though there was a lot of control in the beginning, then they become self-managed, you know, all over time. And so that performers will do that. Great questions, you guys. Who has another question? I know Lad does. You're still muted.
I have questions, but I'll hold mine. I'll let other people go first.
Brittany, Desiree, Chris Cox. I'm looking at some of the faces on here.
I just posted a question on in a chat, and I know of some agents who have used like websites like Upwork to hire ISAs from different countries like Philippines and like pay them lower rate $6 to $10 an hour. Is this something that you've done, or would you recommend? Or, you know, and some of them have been trained by KW systems and maps and stuff like that.
Yeah, we may not be the best experts to give you any advice on those types of systems. We haven't used any of them. We hire all direct for our company. They're all full-time agents, and we train them through our systems. So we don't have any working knowledge with any of those types of companies.
So
now, the systems that you have, are they like on your website too? Is that something that you share as well? Like how to train them and what to use and scripts like that?
Some of it is, yes. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I'm going to interject. For our organization, we feel like the inside sales role is the most important piece of our business. And we actually, even though we're all on the same level, we treat them as so incredibly important, because without leads, none of us are in business. So they need to be performing at a really high level. And so we want them to be an integral part of our organization. And that's why we keep everybody in-house. We have a couple that are remote, but none of our virtual assistants are ISAs. They're all lead generating here in the Houston area.
I would say, just from doing several interviews with top agents across the country, there's a pattern of the ISA division really being the heartbeat of the organization. And so there's a lot of respect and focus in developing that. It's the 3 L's, right? And what's first on that triangle. Another question. Keep them coming.
Desiree has one.
So my question is have you guys talked about or how you guys are going to work different changes in commission? I know we're just starting to feel lower commissions and with flat fees and such. Are you guys starting to think about maybe tailoring your commission, and how I guess that's my question is, are you guys thinking ahead about that? Or even worried about it?
So it's a constant focus of mine, because I look at the numbers all the time, and it's my responsibility to make sure that we have enough leads to offset those situations. In fact, we have a listing today. Get this. Our listing agent went out on the appointment, secured the listing for $145,000, I believe, is the appointment for the listing. Okay, we did a virtual tour because the seller didn't want to have the home seen yet physically. The home's been on the market 1 day, already has 4 offers. We took highest and best. They're getting $160,000 for the property. The seller then came around and we brought the buyer. So we were double ending this deal. We brought the buyer. Now the seller's coming back and saying, I refuse to work with you because I'm not going to pay you 6% commission because you brought the buyer. We're like, we just did our job. And she said, well, it happened all too quick. And so those are the situations that we're encountering. And she hasn't been the most pleasant person, and Christina and Maria have been working with this person quite extensively. But those are the challenges that we experience on a regular basis, because we do have agents here that'll list a house for free and then work on the buy side. That happens all the time. So we need to bring in enough business to offset those situations, and that's my responsibility. Our listing agents and buyer agents do everything that they possibly can to secure the full commission, and inevitably it's not going to happen. You have agent referrals, you have home light referrals. People are coming after it, and you have to provide enough value with that client in order to offset those situations. At least that's my perspective.
Anybody else in line for a question?
I had a follow-up question for the ISAs.
Go ahead.
And I appreciate you guys doing this. What traits are you looking for in an ISA for them to be successful in your team?
So I don't know that there's that many traits that would be different than what we're looking for to be really successful on our team. So I would say our values would be what we're looking for most. They need to be in alignment with TLG and where we're headed. I mentioned earlier about teamwork. That's critical for us. I mean, our team is so interdependent that the people that we go in business with are people that have teamwork embedded in their past somehow. They're a part of sports teams. They've been a part of professional teams or business teams, or in some way have always had a deep respect for teams and knowing how to succeed through others. If we're interviewing someone that comes in with a lot of I did this and I work on this and I like doing this, there's been some stellar talent we pass on because we know ultimately they won't be happy within our organization. So I do think that's one of the critical pieces of inside sales, as with our whole team. But truly, inside sales, they don't see their closings through the end, right? They're a big part of the beginning, and they have to just trust the team that the team will do what the team does best to bring them to close. So that, I think, is something that really has been helpful to us. I will also say we found success with people who have sales and customer service background. Hospitality management has been something that's been helpful to us. They naturally get it and they're open to talking to people. We have found folks who truly want to run their own business. They're entrepreneur minded, just like the rest of our team. And they may have something personally that prevents them from having a lifestyle of wanting to be an outside agent. Right? Like somebody who might have kids that they have events that are more structured. And so it leads them to want a more structured schedule. That's a real win space for us for inside sales. There really isn't, I don't know that we've had too many people that come applying to us. Like, I can't wait to be on the phones all day and call leads. Like, that person hasn't really existed for us. It's more been, they have all the right values for our company. They want to be a part of a championship team, and this piece of the team works best for their lives and gives them the life they want to live.
How are you guys doing on, leading from afar during all of this, Lance? How are you continuing to create the community and the glue with your culture?
Well, first and foremost, the exec team that you have in front of you here have been holding their people accountable at such a high level. They're spending more time than they ever have in the past pouring into their people. And I'm here supporting them in every facet that I possibly can. We definitely have had hiccups along the way. We went from craziness to focusing on a week at a time to focusing on a month at a time, just because the pandemic was going in all different directions. And these ladies have done such an amazing job of pivoting along the way to ensure success. And from an accountability standpoint, each of their departments are all succeeding at an extremely high level. In fact, I'd venture to say that they're succeeding now more than they ever did when we had everybody here at the office. And I'm so incredibly proud of this exec team and what they've accomplished so far. So we're definitely having a challenge with the culture piece of it because everybody is remote, and we're working on a regular basis to ensure that the entire organization still has the culture, but even more importantly, that each of these departments that these ladies lead are staying as cohesive as possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So I've heard you talk before. One of the things that I've seen in you is that you really do quite an extensive amount of research on the economics of the industry, on the real estate market, with your corporate background. You talked about benchmarking. How much time do you time block, either weekly or monthly, doing that research, and what's that look like?
I spend an hour every morning. So my routine in the morning, I get up at 4:20 in the morning. I'm at the office at 5:10. I then work out and take my shower here at the office. It's literally about the shower is about 15 feet from my office, and we have a workout facility here. So I do all that, and then I'm in the office working. I prepare reports from 6 to about 6:30. And then I'm doing research from 6:30 until at least 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And what's been really cool is about 5 years ago, Tony DeSello and I were having a conversation about how we were competing against our top performers here in the Houston area. And I track them every single day. I track their actives, their new construction, their pendings. And like this morning, we have 404 active listings on the market. We have 406 pendings right this second. And I'm looking at that every single morning. Since March 12th, we were headed into a buyer's market. And then all of a sudden the pandemic took over, put work at home in place. And all of a sudden you went fast forward a month and a half, and then businesses started opening up, people started venturing out, and all of a sudden we started seeing a massive uptick in buyers, and our listings started to deplete in the Houston area. And we're looking at this every single morning. And after the first week, we're starting to have these conversations with the listing agents, the buyer agents, the production team, and then started as an organization. Day by day, we saw where we went from having excess inventory. Within 2 weeks of time, we were at the same level as last year. And now this morning, we are now 24% less active listings than last year at this time, which equates to 9,104 listings. On the pending side, we're up 4,589 from last year, which is 31.5%. And that's the entire Houston market. So we're looking at these numbers and analyzing them and figuring out what's going on. And so what's really key here is our agents are armed at the highest level to have conversations with their sellers, with their buyers, because they know what's happening in the market because of the market share that we have. Nobody else was seeing this for several weeks, and we were screaming to our sellers, you've got to get your home on the market. There's less and less actives available. So we literally look at this. I set aside an hour every single morning to research.
How do you communicate that through to your database or to your clients? Is it the ISAs, the part of their scripts, and then the listing team to their pipeline? What do you do specifically?
So Sarah St. Marceau, why don't you take the first part, and then Amy can talk to the second part.
So Lance is sharing that information with us every single week. And we have taken that information and embedded it in our marketing communications. We just recently did an updated Barbara Corcoran spot that we could share on social media and also in email communications. So we blasted that out to all of our sellers. And it's something that we've been sharing on social media since the beginning. Our team put together like an actives, pendings, and closed that is posted once or twice a week to show everyone that's following us what's happening in the Houston market right now.
Great. So using social media and then blasting it out to your SOI. Love it. And then go ahead, Amy.
You want to talk about the scripts that you guys are talking to for the lead generation perspective?
As far as through COVID, you mean?
Right.
I just need a little more context.
using these stats that we're discussing right now.
Oh, so first off, I will say that one thing that we really shifted our energy was, and I think, or where our energy was, and I think most people did this, was lead generation got real weird for a small period of time, right? It didn't feel right to call someone and hard sell them when there was so much happening with the pandemic. So we took the opportunity to reach out to all of our forever clients first. We changed our scripting to truly no ask. It was just to check in and see how they were doing and what they might need from us. We also then called our Mets, did very similar scripting to just check in and see how people were doing. And then even did a follow-up call a few weeks, maybe a month later, to our forever clients, just to again say, we know a lot's changed in the last month, just wanted to see if anything, how you're doing, any questions about the market, anything we could help answer for you, are you and your family doing okay? wanted to just help educate them on some of their options if they were going through financial hardships. And then obviously Lance giving us those great statistics and us embedding them in our social media, we also had then on hand to help have a really natural conversation about, remarkably, that the market's still very strong in Houston. Here's what's happening. Here's where we're at now. Here's where we see it going. Frankly, it's a great time to make a move if you're needing to make a move in your family. And it leads perfectly into, do you know of anybody who needs this information, who would benefit from it, who we should be talking to? We definitely trained them on not asking that person directly, do you need help in real estate? We were training them to say, who do you know that would benefit from this information that we should be connecting with? We know that if they need help, they're going to go, well, me, actually. So you're going to get the answer that you want anyways, but it's going to come across in a lot more relationship focused way.
I love that. Sarah, speaking of shortage of listings, what we're finding is there's multiple offer situations right now and people are losing in that. How are you coaching your buyer's agents to win in that?
So first and most importantly is we actually had a conversation about this last week where we don't want to underestimate the power of a phone call. So when it comes to a buyer agent that has a client who's intending to make an offer on a property, when we know it's a property that's priced appropriately in an area that's going to sell well, our first step is to contact that listing agent and to build rapport. I hear agents all too often who just send a blind offer on a property. And if I were that listing agent, that wouldn't sit well with me personally. Christina, I don't know how you feel about that. Yet when it comes to, that's really the first step in us identifying with that listing agent, finding out more about what has to happen in our buyer's offer to make the seller accept it. And then we can go back to our buyers and talk them through what are some things we can do with their offer to make it most appealing to the seller in an effort to getting their offer accepted.
It's almost as though you're doing a needs analysis before writing it up.
Well, sure, because, there's an assumption that it's always going to come down to price. And while price is definitely a big factor in a seller accepting a buyer's offer, we also need to consider, the strength of the financing. We need to consider, does the seller need to rent the property back after closing? Does the seller have a home that they're building that they need to finish building? What does the seller need to see in this offer for them to, for it to stand out? And so we can tailor our offer to the seller while also still making it a win for the buyer, then that's going to increase our chances of us getting those offers accepted.
Love that.
Right. And then Christina should talk from the listing perspective when we're heading multiple offers, what system she set in place in order to help protect the seller.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of systems. First and foremost is we want to make sure that we're being very fair to everybody. So the moment there's multiple offers, we do inform all the buyer agents involved that there's multiple offers. Please submit your highest and best. If the offer is above appraised value, please confirm if your clients are willing to make the difference should the property not appraised at the negotiated sales price. Send an extra pre-approval letter. And we do have a second pre-qualification process where one of our lender partners we work with closely and has truly saved us from so many deals in the past, that in the event our clients are really nervous about a lender successfully getting a buyer fully approved, then we let our sellers know about it, and our sellers would decide whether or not they want to ask the buyer to do a second pre-qual process just to check at a very surface level to see if it's truly eligible to close. In the event that there are more than 10 or 15 offers, we have spreadsheets in place that the command will take care of all of this, that where the sellers the agents input the information so that they can best present it to our clients. And so those are the systems and processes that we have in place. Ultimately, it depends on our client as well, what's important to them. If we're running the comparables and we see that appraisal is going to be an issue, which we are seeing a lot more prevalent nowadays, especially with COVID happening. In fact, we had one that didn't appraise by $23,000 yesterday. It was an FHA loan. So we typically would advise our clients the best cash offer, the best financing offer, so they can decide and deliberate from there.
One thing I will add to that, Amanda, on the multiple offers on the buy side is our buyer agents do a great job of not waiting until their buyers want to make an offer to prep them for the situations they're going to run into when they're writing these offers. So in our initial conversation or consultation with the buyers, we're letting them know, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let's talk about what's happening in our market. Here's what it's going to take for you to compete. and we go through all the examples that we may have, experiences our current clients have, list price to sell price ratios, all of those things. And then we put it back on the buyer and say, you know, based on what we've discussed, how does that feel? What are you thinking? And if we find in that moment that that buyer may not be willing to compete or may not have the capacity to compete, now might not be the right time for them to buy. And that's okay. What we want to avoid is them writing offers over and over again on different properties and continuing to get outbid. That's a waste of time for everybody.
On that fatigues the buyer, right? And they may end up getting resigned through the process. Elena, on the operations side and client care, I know we heard about key performance indicators for the sales team. What do you hold the operations team for client care accountable to?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the client-facing admin, they are responsible for achieving a 4.75 or higher on their client care score, and that's out of 5, obviously. So we actually, as I mentioned, we are surveying it multiple times throughout the process. And of those, I think there is around 7 or 8 questions that they get each time. There are 2 questions that are specifically geared toward their administrative partner that they're working with. So I think it's something along the lines of my listing partner's ability to be solution-based and my listing partner's proactivity and communication, or something to that nature. So we're actually extracting out the responses to those questions. So those individual admin have their own client care rating that is separate from anybody else on the team, because we do everything as a team, and yet I want to know specifically how my admin are performing in their roles. So that's one way. Other KPIs for our admin staff are the cultivation time from the time we have a signed agreement on the buy side to the time it goes under contract, and then the cultivation from on the list side, the time we have a signed agreement to the time the listing goes active. So our goal is 30 days or less. I know Sarah mentioned this earlier when we talked about lead sources, but we want to shorten that cash cycle as much as possible and move people through the pipeline as quickly as we can, while still meeting their expectations and needs. So that's a couple of things. And then we're also looking at a couple of conversion rates. We're still tweaking that a little bit because KPIs, transaction KPIs for the admin are new for our team. I haven't spoken to a lot of teams who fully have it figured out just yet. So we're still kind of toying around with those numbers as well.
I love that. I love surveying throughout the entire process. So you send how many surveys in total?
On the list side, we send 3, and then of course we ask for a review at the end of the transaction as well. And then on the buy side, we send 2 and then ask for a review at the end of the transaction.
And I assume you probably have set the expectation at the time of the initial appointment that you're going to be sending these, so you have a high completion rate.
Yeah, so we're sort of future pacing throughout the entire transaction, and what we're doing now is leveraging some of the email templates that we're using anyway. So congratulations, your listing is active. We're so excited. Here's the next steps in the process. Action items. Tell us how we're doing. Complete this survey with a link, or you're going to be hearing from our client care. She's going to send you a survey. Please let me know how I'm doing. Your feedback is really important to me. Another way in which we're sort of following up on that is a lot of people on our team have in their email signature, it's our goal to provide a 5-star experience. Tell us how we're doing. And it's a link directly to a survey of how we're doing. So we try to be really transparent about that throughout the entire process. At the end of the transaction, once we've closed, we send an email to our clients just letting them know, congratulations, we're closed and funded. Your one last homework item as your TC, please go review us here. It means a lot to us. You know, your referrals are important, like that kind of thing. So we're just kind of keeping it in their face throughout the entire transaction and letting them know what we need from them in return.
While we're still there. Oh, go ahead, Lance.
Well, I was just going to say, I believe we started focusing on the client experience aspect about 3 to 4 years ago, and that was part of our GPS. And when these surveys started coming in, we had more complaints throughout the entire process, more than ever. And the best part is we were able to overcome those hiccups and still get them to closing and turn those experiences into 5-star reviews while still working with that client. If we wouldn't have started that survey process, we probably would have lost a lot of clients. And when you hear negative comments, you've got to be willing to improve on those comments to overcome them for future business.
Well, it's better to know while you can course correct than it is after, right? So while we're talking about client care, I've seen you guys so many times live, and we've seen examples of your client events. Obviously, we're not able to pull those off during COVID, I'm assuming, but talk about what, I think you have 2 big events a year, is that right? Can you just share like just a high level overview of what those are? They're amazing.
Go ahead, Marcel.
Well, pre-pandemic, we had 2 events per year. We did our Forever Client Appreciation event, which we have held at the Houston Zoo for the last couple of years. When we first started doing that event, it was literally Lance and Karina bringing a barbecue grill to a local park and someone dressing up in a bunny suit. And then eventually over time, it evolved to more of a elaborate and large scale event. And then we also do a pie day 2 days before Thanksgiving. And for that, we invite not just our Forever clients, but also our Sphere, Mets, and we make it a really big deal. Again, that started out as a very small event. Hosted at Lance and Karina's house. Houston is so large, though, that it really didn't make sense as we got bigger to do that. So it's been at 5 different locations, different team members' homes, living in different parts of the city. So right now, we're really kind of rethinking what events can look like in the digital world, and we're in the process right now of talking about things we can do like virtual bingo, virtual wine tastings, things like that, just given the fact that we can't really do events in the way that we've done in the past.
I was going to ask, how are you pivoting for events? I've heard really fun things about virtual bingo. So how many pies did you guys give out last year?
Oh God, I want to say we probably gave out over 600 pies. I don't have the exact number, but I know it was over 600 pies.
Yeah, that's a lot of pies. All right, Lad, I know you were storing up some questions. You want to fire a couple?
I had a question too.
Okay.
Somebody else want to jump in?
Dennis does. Go ahead, Dennis.
Well,
Go ahead,
Lad, you go ahead first.
Go ahead, buddy.
Okay. Lance and team, this is I guess being a 71-year-old broker, been in the business almost 50 years, started out in the textile business in research and development, but I always joke and say I read this book, How to Make $1 Million in Real Estate. I quit my salary job, my car allowance, and I didn't ever know that there was a volume 2, How Not to Lose $2 Million. But I love it, and I've always, being a sports fan and playing athletics in high school and college, I've always felt, and this may be maybe not the smartest question, but I've always loved the team approach as being the most productive way, not only to make a profit for agents overall, but to serve clients more importantly. And what would you think if there was an agency that really promoted only, not necessarily that an individual couldn't be a sole agent and could not work just by themselves, but really promoted the team concept? Would that serve clients a little bit better than individual high producing agents versus teamwork? I don't know if that's a bogus question, but I just have always thought that.
I love that he's saying bogus at 71. So who wants to answer that one?
Well, I think that both models work. You can be a single agent and perform at a very high level and be very happy. And there's a lot of individual agents that thrive on that, and that's fantastic for them. The way that we wanted to build this organization, though, was 100% as a business, first and foremost, and secondly, from a team perspective, that everybody's on the same playing field, the same level playing field. You're going to have stars that shine, and you're going to have people that are supporting. And at the end of the day, you're an entire team. And so we've had heavy producers come and go, and the business is going on just fine because we all are in this together and we're so interdependent. When I left the retail world and then eventually came into real estate, we took that exact same mentality. Retail has inside sales, it has outside sales, it has an accounting department, a marketing department, all these different specialties of departments. We brought that exact same mentality into here and built what we have today. And we do this all as a team. Most of the people that are here have sports backgrounds. They've been on teams. I've coached teams at a very high level, especially women's volleyball. And I love that environment. I love that we all do this together instead of, oh, look at that one person and that person's doing it. In reality, when that one person gets all the accolades, there's a whole army behind that one person that is helping support that one person to get it. We just chose from day one to call this the Loken Group, and now we're evolving into TLG because we don't want it to be about an individual. We want this to be about an entire organization performing at a massive level and exceeding goals on a consistent basis.
Well, and I wanted to follow up with that by saying that I've always thought too that that would aid our recruiting process with agents who were maybe not as much the leaders in their industry, but were always, because I know we always, in a very competitive sense, this has always been a you know, an issue with on the negative side, or the struggle is that well, you know, you may be 5 years with Century 21 and then you're going to try Remax and you're going to try Coldwell Banker. But if there's a strong team concept, and now you can fit in and really be what you want to be and do what you do best and be happy and make enough money, it just sounds to me like our recruiting would just skyrocket. So again, just, you know, just a question.
Good feedback, Dennis. All right, Lad.
All right, yeah. So, Lance, you know, a lot of talk about vision, and we know that, and then it's really awesome to hear you talk about it. It's been re-inspiring for me to kind of get back on the vision of our team as well. So, for people that maybe don't have it all mapped out, you have the benefit of being in corporate America and coming in and seeing that big goal setting and you know, departments. For someone who hasn't had that background and they may not even understand how to build the vision for their team, how would you, like, some nuts and bolts actions on how you would suggest that they start with that? Because I think we all do, like, believe you have to envision it before it's going to happen, right? So what would you tell that person?
So if you're an individual agent, you know, based off of research, I think you can do pretty well doing 2 transactions a month. Okay. So if you do 2 transactions a month, you could do 24 at the end of the year. Okay. So that's my first year goal. The second year, I'm going to want to double that business. So let's make it 48. And then the next year, you're going to want to double that business. That'd be 96. Okay. So now I have my 1 year goal of 24. I have my 3 year goal of 96. And then you can have a 5 year goal of doing another 38. So it's 144, I believe. And so now you have your 1, 3, 5 year goals in place. Now, don't worry about 2, 3, 4, and 5 years. Worry about, what do I have to do to get 24 deals in year 1, and stay focused on that. And when you achieve that, okay, I already know what my goals are for year 2. What do I need to do to build upon that platform that you created in year 1 to achieve year 2? For instance, for us, year 1, we focused on buyers. And then year 2, we focused on sellers. Year 3, we started looking at the macro level and wanted to cover the entire Houston market. Then year 4, we got into the builder business. Year 5, we got into radio. So we took one thing and created our business model around that one thing as a layer upon the platform that had been built. Does that help?
Yeah, definitely. It's very practical, because everybody talks about terms of vision and being abstract, and I think people struggle on what it looks like day to day.
Other questions?
Lance, talk about the role. I know that you guys are very learning based, and you talk about culture a lot, but what role has coaching played in an organization? What level does your coach, obviously you've had a lot of coaching and you coach them a lot, and I know they're all coaching other people. Who do you all look to, and how often? What does that look like? How do you guys continue to grow the vision and execute on the vision?
All the ladies on this call have MAPS coaches. We've evolved into, we all have the same MAPS coach today. All the ladies here as well as myself. And then additional to that, I talk to Gary Keller on a regular basis and Tony DeCello on a very regular basis. In fact, I'm going fishing next weekend with Tony DeCello and Greg Harrelson, who's in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Super excited about that. So those are the people that I generally converse with. And then the ladies, they all have the MAPS coach that they talk to. And then some of our success coaches, Amy has done an amazing job of building a success coach training program to start building a bench for the people that are learning and up and coming people that we see as potential bench. And then we also do our planning advance, and then people go out and do other training programs. Like Christina, why don't you talk about where you're going next week? Because you're always looking to grow and learn as well.
Yes, because of the support of you and the exec team, I'm able to go on a training tomorrow morning for a continuation of NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's taught by the Empowerment Partnerships. I'll be there for 2.5 weeks learning. It's called Trainers Training, and just basically learning how to effectively communicate in a large group dynamic on very difficult topics and challenges as well, and really communicating effectively at a high level to help move any group dynamic forward, and also to be certified to teach NLP. So very excited.
Yep. And then Elena and I talk on a regular basis because she's usually here at the office along with me. We talk about books that we're each reading all the time. She absolutely loves reading books, and she's gotten me into it. My favorite quote of all time that Gary ever said was, somebody asked him who his mentors were, and he immediately said books. And literally from that moment on, I've read books from time to time in the past, but literally from that moment on, I have read books every single day for the past 2 years. And the reason he said books is because you can learn from the people that have already done what you've done. You can learn from people, from businesses that have failed, that have succeeded. There's lots of books from people that have gone long before us, and they are currently with us. Like Simon Sinek for us, Elena, Marceau, myself, Amy, and Christina. We love Simon Sinek and his mindset and his thought process. We listen to his podcast on a regular basis because he's very relevant to today's situations and with everything that we're encountering. So we're always seeking to learn on a regular basis.
So we've got 3 minutes slated, and I just kind of want to rapid fire from each one of the key leaders. What did we not ask you that you would like to share and leave us with as we close up? And again, thank you all so much. So y'all can just raise your hand and go, or I can call you out, whichever's more organized.
Well, Detmore, go first, because I know she's got to get going. So
perfect.
I do have a 1 o'clock call. I can't think of anything that usually I get asked in these things that I wasn't asked. So I'm probably the wrong person to answer that question. This was great though. I enjoyed meeting all of you. I do have to hop off this call though. So thank you so much for having us. I really appreciate it. Nice to virtually meet all of you. See you later.
You, Sarah. Elena.
Elena.
I'm with Sarah. I feel like we covered a lot. Forgive me, I noticed somebody had posted, I think Charity had posted about, do clients have a lot of questions about working with a big team? I don't know if Christina, you mentioned the dual agency card, but we have dual agency cards that people love. I think there's I have one. It looks like this. and it's like it shows the listing agent and the listing partner, and then it folds over and it says like your listing team. So that's something that works really well for us. We set really good expectations up front as far as who they need to contact. We're working on even some more collateral as we grow in that space. So just wanted to make sure I touched on the dual agency card, because that's or the dual partnership card, because that's always a big hit.
Awesome. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, I think there's a copy of it in the TLG shares as well.
Cool. Christina.
I would say the question that haven't been heard is, how did you guys get to where you are today? Specifically, it's a lot of lessons that we've learned. It's know when to say no. A lot of times when you say yes, you're saying no to 10 other things. Admit when you're wrong, and know that it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to do everything. That, from a personal perspective, personal growth perspective, that has taught me really hard, the hard way, lots of burnout and hitting the ground. And so when you guys are looking to grow your business, be prepared to be very vulnerable and to take risk. And if you feel like you are failing and you're doing awful, great. You're doing good. You're doing something right because you're moving forward. So that's my piece of advice.
Love that. Sarah, without the H.
I think probably the one thing that I would just emphasize is don't shortchange the CV process. We've learned the hard way that when we did that, it not only hurt the person that we had hired, that was the wrong hire for our team, but maybe right somewhere else. We hurt we hurt them, but we hurt our team as well. And so I just want to emphasize that is such a critical piece to the team for their growth, for our growth, and also for our culture. So that would be my one thing.
Love that. Amy?
I agree with Sarah. I'm so glad she mentioned it, because it really is a tough lesson that we've all learned and can help save somebody some time. I will say one thing that just stands out to me, I repeat it often. My coach said to me one time, if you're not living in chaos, you're doing something wrong. And it just helped reinforce to me that growth is chaos. Growth is messy. And so we might seem like we have our stuff together, y'all, but it's a hot mess. Every day is a hot mess still, and every day has been, and every day will be. So growth is just messy and can be hard, and it's about having the dedication and grit and the desire that pushes you past all of that mess. So that's really my one thing that I think is important to share. And the other thing I'll say that I think is real important, time blocking. If it's not a skill you're super good at, I would encourage you to work on that skill. It is the one thing that has helped all of us as executives be better and better every day, is because we manage our time at a really, really high level. So just a little quick shout out to time blocking.
Love that. Lance, you could take us home. What do you want to share, or what did we not ask?
Well, everybody in this room is a business leader, and you have to treat yourself as a business leader first and foremost. At the end of the day, though, when you're the one making all the decisions, when you're the one that says that you're the one not asking questions, but you're making the decisions or answering everything, that's your lid in your company or in your team. When you start hiring people that ultimately become your exec team or your leadership team or the group that you collaborate with, all of a sudden your ceiling just got exponentially bigger, because you're not the one making the decisions anymore. You're collectively as a group, as an organization, making those decisions together. And that creates buy-in from your executive team, from your entire organization. And it is nothing about Karina or myself in this organization. It has always been about the Loken Group, and we are all equal, and I'm here to serve them and help them be as awesome as they possibly can. So if you think you're the leader, then that's your lid.
Nice. Good advice. So there are a few people asking about the recording. We are recording this with permission from the Loken group. We will share with the attendees. We just ask that you guys not put this out into the general public, because this was a great gift from everyone. And thank you so much, you guys, for being here. We'll let everybody get off to their day. It was a real honor and such a privilege to meet all of you virtually. And we'll send some air hugs your way.
Yeah.
See you later.
To all you guys, thank you very much. We will be giving you guys a great donation. And for everybody else, if you haven't, go to tlgshares.com. They literally have been doing this for years. You can download any of the stuff that they use in their business that they talked about. You can adapt for your, it's in like editable forms, and then give them a donation. And can't thank you guys enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
AT, you've got the Facebook and recording handled, right? All right. I'm off to hang with Gary Keller now. What a day. Bye.